What up?
There's a lot.
What's going on?
There's a lot going on. What in the hell?
What do you mean?
Well,
What are you talking about?
talking about the big
What are you
Stephen
talking
A. Jason Whitlock beef.
Oh, God.
I mean, let's start there.
Stop. I don't even
That
care.
fat bastard. That's what I woke up to with
You
Stephen.
love Stephen A.
I woke up to my Twitter feed being Stephen A. Smith. Who was it? I think it was Chad Ochocinco that retweeted him going, "I've had enough of this fat bastard." And I was like, what? Like, who's he talking to? And then next thing you know, real news started happening. And I'm like, holy hell.
You're a closet Stephen A. Smith fan.
Big fan.
You're always talking about him.
Love him.
Cares what he says.
No
Wait,
one,
so
but-
he's fighting with Jason Whitlock now?
I guess he.
Tell me more.
I guess he's.
No, don't.
I guess he's getting ready to eviscerate him.
Just kidding.
He's doing some sort of weird beef. And that's the thing is, I don't follow him, but no one shows up on my timeline more than that dude. And look, give him credit. That son of a gun's got talent. He showed up on my feed in the national title game because he was sitting with Jeter and Jordan and all those guys. He just finds a way. He's like a fungus. He just grows.
Well, you can block his name, right? Like, his name won't show up. Like, you can...
Even when someone retweets something that he...
Yeah, that I don't know. But
Oh. He just... Like I
there are
said,
filters.
I don't follow him. He just shows up on my timeline.
I don't know.
So...
But you're right. A lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
Outside of that big news.
Yes. So I kept waiting for like the hoodie news, and then that never came. I'm still waiting for it. It'd be the day the music died. It'd be the Big Bopper, Richie Valens. Everyone goes down if the hoodie retires today or gets fired. Because
Yeah.
I was at the gym and the Pete Carroll stuff happened, and then I'm driving in and I hear the Nick Saban, and I'm like, what the hell?
So how many of our listeners right now are going, what are they talking about? Probably a lot.
Probably. Well, I mean, if you're
Here's
just
the deal.
getting in your car,
You guys ready?
Yeah.
You guys ready for this?
Lee Corso still has a job though.
And he always will as long as he's alive.
Something.
Lee Corpso.
He ain't going anywhere.
Here's the deal. Check this out. Today, the headlines at, 2 o'clock were Pete Carroll is no longer the Seahawks
Yes.
head coach.
Stepping down and
That was at 2 o'clock.
taking some sort of advisory role and a tearful press conference. And it was actually really kind of a sweet press conference. It was a love letter to John Schneider.
So I go outside, do a couple things, come back in, kiss my beautiful bride goodbye for the day. May never see her again. You never know.
It's true.
And check my phone. And boom. Nick Saban has retired.
You know, the weirdest thing is, and it's random. So on my car, I'll flip around. I've got like 7 sports radio stations that are like 1 through 7 on mine, and I'll just roll.
Whoa.
And I'll roll through
7.
7.
How do you do that? We only have 1.
Well, ours is 99.5.
Well, actually, we have 2.
HD2 is number 1.
Yeah.
910 is number 7. And then I have, well, I'm not
I
gonna
wouldn't
lie.
have said that.
910 is actually 8 because I don't flip to it very often. But
Well, 910's our station, so
That's
it
our
should be
station.
number 2.
well, it's not. It's actually 8, and I
I
don't.
appreciate your honesty.
Well, because we run ESPN programming on it, and ESPN is number 2 on mine, right? And so I was flipping around today, and of all the shows that you could be listening to hear the Nick Saban news,
Stephen A. Smith.
no, I was listening indeed to the Paul Feinbaum show.
Oh.
And it was, you would have thought.
Wait,
that-
how do you get his show in your car?
What do you mean?
How do you get his show in your car?
Because it's satellite radio.
Oh, satellite.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's, you can't.
So I have everything. So on my car, you can do all your radio stations. You don't have to switch from FM to AM. It's all lined up.
I can't do satellite. I don't like that. I'm a terrestrial radio guy.
As am I. 99.5.
Free. I like the free. I don't like paying for radio. That's bullshit.
So
So Paul Feinbaum can suck it. How about that?
I
Pretty sure
was,
you can watch his show for free on like ESPN.
I have seen
too.
that.
or
Yeah.
there's an app that you can
His
listen
show
to
is
for
so incredibly boring.
free. Yes.
I can't even. Well, so then why do you pay for it?
I
mean,
don't.
That's a joke.
I don't pay for the Paul Feinbaum show. It
Well.
is on. And again, it's one of those things that as I'm driving in, I'll flip through and you just kind of rolling through and you get a little you just get a preview of everything that's going on. Like there's an NBA, I have NBA radio on there. I have the NFL network on there. So you just kind of roll through there. And again, you got 35 minutes driving around. You can get a nice little view of what's going on. And I just happened to flip over to the Paul Feinbaum show. And then like 30 seconds after listening to it, I'm already in the point of, oh my God, Paul Feinbaum. And then sure enough.
That's what he does to you.
He does. He is probably my least, like as I'm flipping through, because it's on when I'm driving to work, he is just a lot. But it's the ESPN.
See, I find him boring. He never really says anything.
It's terrible.
It's not a lot. Like Stephen A. to me is a lot, or Skip Bayless is a lot. These guys are a lot.
Yeah.
Big personality guy. Feinbaum never.
He's
he's boring.
I don't know how he's the thing down there, but he is.
Either.
And it just so happens.
Hey, give him credit. He built that.
He built it. And I was listening, and you would have thought that a meteor hit the earth and all hell was breaking
Now, is he
loose.
an Alabama fan?
Yes. He's based out of Alabama.
Okay.
And he's all SEC and certainly sides with Alabama, and he's friends with Saban. And then,
Oh, well, how did he not have the news first?
I don't know. But he had was it Chris Lowe that had it?
Chris Lowe.
He had him on within like 20 seconds.
Yeah. Those guys are all buds.
Yeah. So he came right on, and it was an interesting perspective. But look, Pete Carroll does not get the credit he deserves. Pete Carroll is one of the great football coaches, not college, not NFL. He is one of the great football coaches of all time. And he never gets the just due. And it's ridiculous. He never gets his credit. And it's kind of like, it's fitting that on the day where Pete Carroll steps down and should be the story, that one of the great coaches of all time gets to go out and kind of, just, hey, this is my swan song. It was a very nice press conference, very sweet moment with him and his wife. I thought the John Snyder stuff was very good. We're getting all into that. And then the greatest college coach of all time chooses that day to be like, I'm done. All we need now is Bill to be like, really, Nick? You think you're the story? I'm the greatest NFL coach of all time. F you. I'm stepping down. Take that.
What if he does, and then Greg Popovich comes over the top and says, you know what? I think I'm done.
I wouldn't. No. Pop is greatness. He's not that greatness. Jesus would have to.
In the NBA.
Jesus would have to come down and then announce his retirement from being Lord and Savior, and still, I think Paul Feinbaum would be like, yeah, whatever. Let's talk about Nick Saban. Become a very regional thing. It's crazy. It's a nuts day.
It is crazy, and you're right. Pete Carroll deserves this day.
Yes,
but he's not going to get it.
No.
Well, he'll get some of it. But Saban is out, and the bigger, sort of local angle is that the odds-on favorite to replace him is Dan Lanning.
Yeah, Brett McMurphy came off the top rope and said that according to sources with Action Network, and Brett's pretty dialed in the college football world. I don't think he's not the Peter Vesey of college football, just throws S against the wall. And he didn't just say, because there's a lot of names floating around. Sark's floating around out there. Lane Kiffin's floating around out there. Dabo's floating around. DeBoer's floating around. But McMurphy said that the number one target for Alabama. Yeah.
I like that.
DeBoer doesn't have a contract.
No, I think DeBoer would be a good fit there.
The only problem with DeBoer is he's, at least at Washington, he hasn't recruited. And
he has. Just not as well as you.
Not well.
Yeah.
And so McMurphy said that the number one target for Alabama is Dan Lanning. And
I can see why.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the reasons listening to, and I think I listened to about 7 different interviews about Nick Saban over the last
one on each of those channels.
Hour. I was jumping around and I was interested to hear. So I was trying to get as many different perspectives as I could. And one of the things that kind of kept popping up was, and we've seen this, Saban had softened over the years. It had become less about winning more championships or cementing any sort of legacy. He knew where he was at. He knew he was the GOAT. And it became more about the enjoyment of coaching. And one of the guys I was listening to, I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have been Bruce Feldman, I think, that was telling the story. They said that they were talking to him going into the Rose Bowl against Michigan. And he said he just had a different vibe about him. And he said this might have been his favorite year to coach ever. Because he said no team had come further from where it was at at the beginning of the year to now. And he said that had really become his driving force, is that's what his enjoyment was. And they said after the loss and everything, that he was driving around on the golf cart and it got stopped as they were kind of taking him from the interview room back. And he said he was sitting there and normally, you know, Saban after a loss is very, very sour. Even after wins, he can be very sour. And he said he just had this weird look where he was waving at fans, he was shaking hands, and he had a smile on his face. And he remembers kind of looking at that and saying, that's weird. And so it was a weird kind of moment. And he said, looking back on it now and some of the conversations that he had, you just, maybe there were signs there that you didn't quite pick up on it at the time, but now you look at it and you just realize that between kind of growing as a human being, not quite being as obsessed with winning titles, securing your legacy, and then you throw in the fact that NIL and having to recruit your own roster 365 days a year, let alone go out and recruit, you know, high school and the transfer portal and all that. You know, money not an issue, legacy not an issue, that maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that Nick got to a point and just was like, man, I'm going to ride off in the sunset with my wife and fish and, you know, enjoy my years.
I brought that up a couple weeks ago. You said he wasn't going anywhere.
Certainly didn't feel like it.
So I think that, I mean, yeah, I also saw somebody write, I think it was bloop, 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 bloop. One of the SEC guys wrote about, I don't know, Stuart Mandel, I think, wrote that it was odd how Saban embraced his wife after that final press conference, after the Michigan game. She was standing right behind him, and he turned and gave her a big, long hug. And a lot of people looked at that and went, he doesn't normally do that. Yeah. So there were some rumblings that he was out, and a lot of it came earlier than just this you know, just this last month because of NIL and all, you know, all of the ways that college football has changed. The 72-year-old guys, man.
It's a young man's game.
That won. Well, but I have no doubt that Nick Saban can continue to be successful. Yeah. So it's not just the young man's game, at least in my opinion. It's just that I just think, guys, when you get to be 72 years old, you want that continuity. You want things, you've built it a certain way. You've done things a certain way. That dude ain't changing. And if he is, he's already adapted enough. He's already done enough of that where he's probably worn out. And I think you could kind of see that coming with some of these guys. And it's
they're not going to coach to 80.
Exactly. Well, not only that, but yeah, exactly. It's like it kind of all lines up with just the way the game is changing, and then their age. You know, some of these guys kind of predictable. Yeah.
Like when Chris Peterson steps aside, that's like, oh my God, you have a lot left in the tank.
Pretty surprising.
At 72, unless you're running for president, most of the time at 72, you should be thinking about shutting it down.
Well, even Pete Carroll. Yes. You know, just the other day we were talking about how he said he's not tired, he's not worn out, he wants to come back. And he is a ball of energy, but at the same time, it's not that shocking that they moved on from Pete Carroll. Yeah. It's you know, when it actually happens, it's like, whoa, but he's old too. He's 72. Yeah. So, and he, you know, the knock on him is the game's passed him by and it's kind of stuck in the mud. And it's the same idea. So I don't know. I don't think it's as wild as today is, both Pete Carroll moving into an advisory role and Nick Saban retiring. It's not that shocking.
No, it's just
on the same day as
surprising.
Is wild.
Not shocking, surprising in that you had heard rumblings, but there wasn't a lot of rumors and like if Bill retires or gets fired, that's we heard that for 3 months.
You know, he's younger than the other two.
Yeah, by what, like
I think a year.
A year.
Yeah.
But with like you said, with Pete came out and said, "I will be back for my 73rd."
Well, he said he wants.
He wants to. Yeah, he said
it's not up to him.
It's not. Yeah, if you don't know, they shoved Pete out of the way. Yeah. Nick stepped down. Like, I guarantee when he told Alabama that, they were like, "How much money would it take for you to stay?" He's like, "No, thanks." So there's differences there, but you know, it's like. Pete said, "I want to be back," thought he'd be back. Saban, they even said, I remember a month ago, there were people that were talking about this saying there's no signs that Nick's going to step down. He seems to be really enjoying this. Well, it turns out maybe he was really enjoying this, and that's kind of why he was like, hey, I won another SEC title, and I feel great. Said this may have been my best coaching job. You wonder if the season had really gone sideways like people thought at the beginning of the year, maybe he doesn't retire. Because I'm not certain that Nick could go out with a 6-win team. But I think you hold your head up and said, again, when you say this is my best coaching job, maybe that's the time to walk away and you win your 11th SEC championship.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't win the national title, he sure seemed to think that this was a hell of a job. By him and that staff to get this Alabama team to an overtime loss against the eventual national championship. But I do think that the way the game is going and the recruitment and the transfer portal and all that, I do think it leans to be a young man's game. I think you have to be willing to work 20 plus hours, 365 days a year. And Saban was legendary for that. He made his staff eat at the facility. It was one of where I think Lanning learned that from, was cutting his teeth at Saban's heels there. But again, when you're 72, 73, do you want to keep working 20-hour weeks and not just 20-hour days, 7 days a week, but also, like you pointed out, a different 20 hours. It's one thing when you're having to recruit. It's a whole other thing when you're having to do the transfer portal. And more importantly, I think the idea of keeping your team together, that may be the most frustrating part of this new era of college football. It's every single day you have to be worried about your team, young guys that you normally look at and be like, hey, I got this guy for 3 years. This guy's going to be a stud. You have to now constantly worry about whether that kid is going to pack up and leave to go to a greener pasture.
Yeah, and I think he probably hates that. Again, it's not the way he's used to doing it. And he's like, you know what? I'm 72. I'm out.
Yeah.
Got 6 titles. What else do I need to
I got $150 million and I'm good.
In a nice little mansion.
Yeah. That the school paid for.
Okay. So up next, let's get our poll question in, and then we'll talk about the idea of Dan Lanning to Alabama. There's some scuttle that may put Duck fans at ease.
I think Duck fans are a little shaky right now.
I am very interested in this over here.
Washington and Oregon fan right now are doing
some scuttle.
They're doing a little quaking.
317 on the Fan. All right, Nick Saban is out at Alabama. They fired him, said he sucked. No, that's not the case.
They rough talked him. They told him to get.
No, they didn't. They didn't tell him to get.
No.
He retired.
Get.
Seattle, they did kind of tell him to get.
Yes.
Although they're stopping short of saying he's been fired. He's been moved to an advisory role.
It was a nice way.
Yeah.
And if people don't know, and I'm not certain that this is like common knowledge out there, John Schneider is the GM, but Pete Carroll is in charge. Pete Carroll has final say. He has the second most control in the NFL over, besides maybe Bill Belichick. So one of the things that's happening here is John Schneider is actually being elevated where he will now have final say. And Pete talked about that in his presser. He said this is one of the reasons why this is happening is he loves John Schneider, just has nothing but great things to say about him. And so I think this is one of those things where Pete's being told that roles are changing. You're no longer in charge. Schneider's in charge. And for all parties involved, it was just best at this point for him to slip away, let Schneider pick his coach. Pete will be on in some sort of advisory role, whatever that means, and no hard feelings either way. So
Lanning, his name has popped up as Alabama's top target.
Yeah.
Interesting, and certainly scary for Duck fans. What I was referring to when I said there may be some sketty that will put Duck fans at ease is the fact that, from a couple different places, you're hearing a little bit that it sounds like this was already handled. In other words, when Dan Lanning was talking so confidently about staying at Oregon, it was the idea that the Alabama job, they already knew it was going to be open.
Yeah.
So that's where Lanning's new contract extension comes in. There's the idea that this was not sprung on Alabama. Nick Saban's smart enough to know it's like, hey, let's keep this on the DL, but I may be out of here. You guys need to be looking around so you can maximize, the time frame for my replacement. So there is an idea out there. I don't know if it's true, but the idea out there is that this has already, they've already tried to lure Lanning.
Yeah, it's already been addressed, and at the time, everyone thought the A&M job was the one, and Lanning immediately shot that down. And you would hope, fingers crossed, that maybe, like you said, that this has already been addressed with the $20 million buyout, and Lanning so adamantly talking about his kids and wanting to stay there, and all that.
He was so adamant.
Yeah,
that, and we even asked him. We asked about it. It's like, how can you be so sure? And I think there's a lot of things that play into that, because we were thinking A&M, but you're right. If he's saying that confidently, maybe it was about the Alabama job and he couldn't say that, because we really feel like, and this is all just speculation on our part, but we've always said with Lanning, it kind of feels, because you lost Cristobal to a dream job, Miami, right? You lost Taggart to a dream job, Florida State. Yeah. Lanning doesn't necessarily have that. The two jobs that kind of pop up, and again, it's just speculation, but would be Georgia and Alabama. It's like it's really hard to pass up those opportunities should they arise. Well, here comes Alabama. So how is he talking so confidently, knowing that, the Alabama job could come up at some point?
Yeah. So
relatively soon.
It's the only thing you can say if you're an Oregon fan that gives you any sort of solace.
Well, and they have PTSD, so I get it. We're a little overly sensitive to this.
And there's not a coach in the country, or let's say a fan base in the country outside of Georgia and Kirby, that isn't mildly like, I'm a little nervous.
Well, yeah, because Alabama and Georgia, maybe Ohio State, those are your top three jobs.
Yeah.
Period. And so when they come open, every good coach is going to be looking around.
And I know this is going to be crazy. And I'm not.
I like crazy.
Well, and you follow me on this one. If I'm Dan Lanning, or if I'm, I'll even say DeBoer. Okay, I don't want this job. I don't. Not interested. The idea that the Alabama job is the best job in the country. Where does that come from?
Nick Saban.
Right?
He made it that.
And Alabama has unbelievable legacy, right? Obviously, they've got Bear Bryant.
But before that, they were USC, basically.
Well, and this is what I'm saying. So after, and then Gene Stallings.
I mean, before Saban, not before Bear Bryant.
Yeah. So Gene Stallings won a title there in like whatever that was in the early 90s. He won one. And then after that, it was Mike DeBose, Dennis Franchione, Mike Price, Mike Shula, for God's sakes, and then ended up with Nick Saban. And here comes Nick Saban, and he wins 6 national titles while he's there, and 8 or 9 SEC titles, and plays in 3 or 4 more national titles, and becomes the greatest coach of all time. Like, so don't get me wrong, the Alabama job is amazing, but I ask you, is the Alabama job inherently any different than Florida, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State? Is it different than any of those? Or is it merely the fact that you had Nick Saban, and before that, if you want to go all the way back, because it had Bear Bryant. So you have had 2, if not the 2 greatest coaches of all time that came through there, and you have everything you could need, right? You have all the boosters in the world, you have all the money in the world, you have unbelievable facilities, but how is that any different than any of those schools that I just mentioned? I thought it's a very good point you brought up there. They were USC. It's a sleeping giant. Yeah, it's an SEC country, so I think it's a much better job than USC, which is kind of out here on an island. But I don't want to be the one that's following Nick Saban. I don't want to be the one that follows Tom Osborne. I don't want anything to do with that. You know what the expectations are at Alabama? And yeah, they were paying Nick Saban $12 million a year. I'm not certain that they're paying Dan Lanning or they're paying DeBoer or anyone else $12 million. Yeah, maybe they bump them up to 10. Maybe you get to 11. I don't know. But you're going to get Lanning's what? It's 7 and some change. DeBoer is probably going to squeeze out 7 to 9 out of UW. Is that couple extra $1 million worth having to go down to Alabama and fight those sort of expectations? Look, it's a hell of a job. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, and that everyone is going to be on their list, and anyone would be crazy to not consider it. But I just think that sometimes we get in over our skis and saying, well, this is the best job in America. We said that about Florida. And where's Florida now? We said it about Florida State at one point, and where's that?
I agree. I think Alabama is a job that you really, all these jobs, to get a guy like Lanning or DeBoer, I think they have to really covet that job, that particular job.
Yes.
Right? It's much like Cristobal and Taggart.
Yeah.
You never want to follow a legend. That's bad. You mentioned Tom Osborne. The guy who followed Tom Osborne did a good job.
And got run out of town.
And got fired.
Yeah.
So expectations are impossible.
Frank Solich, by the way.
So the other thing to me about Lanning, one, he spoke so confidently about staying. I put some stock into that. I don't think he's one of those blow smoke type of coaches, and maybe call me naive when he leaves for Alabama. I'll take that. But I believe him.
Yeah.
And I actually think they have a good chance to keep him. The other thing about the Oregon job is that job has grown into something really special.
It's a great job.
He is building something special at Oregon. They are very close, and he knows it. And he has everything he needs to win here. He said that multiple times. The SEC is a meat grinder of a league. Yep. And oh, by the way, they just stepped up and paid him and put a big buyout on his contract. I mean, all of that.
That being said, he will be the next coach at Alabama. No, I'm with you.
I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I don't think he will.
I can't even venture a guess.
If Alabama, I would guess. I'm 76.3% sure Dan Lanning is the coach at Oregon next season. Okay. I would say that if Alabama has to have Dan Lanning,
yeah,
they can probably get him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that.
But I also, look, let's not get over our skis about Dan Lanning. I mean,
he hasn't won squat.
He hasn't won the league.
No.
And he's lost to his rival 3 times.
Yep.
I get why they want Dan Lanning, but he's not the end all to be all for them.
No.
Right? So if
like Mario Cristobal and Willie Taggart, careful. And I think Lanning has talked about this too. He has mentioned leaving for other jobs because how'd that work out for Willie Taggart? And I'll tell you right now, it didn't work out for Mario Cristobal.
Exactly. So maybe that puts you at ease if you're a Duck fan. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. but I get your trepidation because of everything that's gone on. It's like every 2 years we go through those.
Yeah.
But Lanning, he talks a little different. So we'll see. I'm going to play a couple of clips when we get back.
He does have a tattoo on his body of the Alabama A.
He does?
Yeah.
Why?
You got the big wife tattoo.
The wife one, yeah.
And now, granted, the same tattoo has the Oregon O on it, and the Oregon O is bigger than the A. But on the cheek of his wife, the tattoo of his wife is the Alabama cursive A. So,
damn it! All right, 72.7.
You just made me my heart just dropped at my feet when I heard that.
Oh, for God's sake!
I'm scared. I want some stability for this program. Darn it!
So the other names out there.
Well, you're doing the best you can to keep it.
Exactly. So it's the other ones you've heard is Sark's name is right at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Who was an assistant there? Norvell at Florida State.
Sark could be a good hire.
I think so.
But would he leave Texas for Alabama?
I don't know.
To follow Nick Saban? I don't know.
Again, this is my point. He's got everything he needs. Norvell.
Who else did you say?
Norvell at Florida State.
Good coach.
You could probably get Norvell because of what happened at Florida State.
Alabama.
Dabo was always believed to be
the conference thing.
Exactly. Dabo was always believed to be the coach in waiting there, but some people are saying that the shine has come off of Dabo.
I would agree with that.
Because of what's happened there. And then, of course, the wild card in all this, and he would desperately want the job. I mean, for God's sakes, he interviewed for the Auburn job, and that's Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
So that's kind of those, that's the de facto. If you can't get anyone else, Lane Kiffin is probably burning up the phone lines right now, letting anyone at Alabama know that if you'd like him, I'm here.
Well, I'm gonna refresh your memory on what Lanning said. We have a couple clips, and we'll do that when we get back, and we'll talk about the legend of Nick Saban, who has stepped down at Alabama. It is 3:33. Here's Schultze.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, a bombshell dropping in college football today. Alabama head coach Nick Saban has announced his retirement after 17 seasons with the program, including 6 national championships in a 12-year span. He did win one with LSU as well for 7 total. Action Network's Brett McMurphy reporting that Oregon coach Dan Lanning is expected to be their top choice to replace Saban. More shocking news out of the NFL today as Seattle Seahawks owner Jody Allen announcing that the team has decided to remove head coach Pete Carroll and transition him into an advisory role. After being hired in 2010, the 72-year-old Carroll finishes his tenure as the winningest coach in Seahawks history, along with 10 playoff appearances and 1 Super Bowl win. Elsewhere around the NFL, the Chicago Bears decided to keep head coach Matt Eberflus, but are firing offensive coordinator Luke Getzky after going 7-10 this season. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schultze from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Every day, get the NFL headlines delivered straight to you. Follow the Best Football Show with Brian Baldinger on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-5795. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-5795. That's 800-583-5795. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works?
just saw this pop across my timeline, and this was really cool. Someone went and found an old article, just a little snippet from the Columbus UPI.
I saw this.
Yeah. And this
is great.
Way back when. I'm assuming this
1980.
is 1980. I was going to say late 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
It says,
you were 2 years old.
Yeah. Nick Saban, an assistant at West Virginia, has been picked by Ohio State University head coach Earl Bruce to become the defensive secondary coach of the Buckeyes. Saban will replace Pete Carroll, who leaves OSU after the Rose Bowl game to become the defensive coordinator at North Carolina State.
Isn't that great? I didn't even remember. I didn't know Carroll was at North Carolina State.
Nope, don't remember it at all. Obviously, because
I also didn't know he was at Ohio State. I didn't know Nick Saban was at Ohio State.
I was 2, so
you don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
All right, Pete Thamel tweeting out the buyouts for potential Alabama head coaches. Dan Lanning at $20 million.
It's a big buyout.
I mean, it's huge. That's the biggest one of all of them.
And he wouldn't pay it. Obviously, Alabama would pay it. So
the idea that, Oregon has done everything it could to keep its coach.
Yes.
When you throw a $20 million buyout into his contract and then up his pay to whatever, $7.5, $8 million a year, so whatever, $7.5 million a year, that's really all a school like Oregon can do. Now, if Alabama still wants to pay that and he still wants the job and they'll pay him $10 million,
nothing you can do.
What are you going to do?
No,
but
you're not Alabama.
You have done what you can. Kalen DeBoer, $12 million buyout. Dabo Sweeney, $7.5 million. James Franklin, $6 million, and Mike Norvell, $4 million.
To me, the one that makes the most sense, like if you're Alabama, Norvell's 42 years old, wildly successful at Memphis, took over a Florida State program that was wallowing and going nowhere after Jimbo left, even towards the end of Jimbo. And it wasn't pretty right away, but look at what he's built them in the last 2 years. And they were undefeated this year, even with the quarterback situation, can recruit. I mean, that's the one that kind of makes sense. And then the other one too, and I know people laugh at it, but Lane Kiffin and Nick had a great relationship, even though it ended sour. Kiffin speaks very fondly of Nick Saban in his time at Alabama. He can recruit with anyone. He recruits to Ole Miss, for God's sakes. He runs a great offense, tremendous success while he was there at Alabama. If it ends up being Lane Kiffin, that is not a bad hire. It's not the one that, that everyone's going to do hand, springs over, but that's not a bad hire if Lane Kiffin ends up getting that job. Same thing with Sark. I mean, they're not going to hire a coordinator. This will be somewhat of a proven guy. And it's interesting in that their top target, Dan Lanning, is the least accomplished of any of these coaches.
Exactly.
And I'm not taking anything away from Dan Lanning because I think Dan Lanning's a hell of a coach and he's got Oregon pointed in the right direction. But every one of those coaches that we've mentioned has a much better resume than Dan Lanning. You're just doing the Lanning thing because of the young energy, the recruit, and you feel like he's a guy that can continue to grow the program. But even DeBoer, if DeBoer ends up being the guy, DeBoer is a much more accomplished coach than Dan Lanning is. So it's just odd that the least experienced by far with the lesser resume is the one supposedly that Alabama wants more than anyone with a $20 million buyout.
Play a couple clips of Mr. Lanning just to refresh your memory. You remember what he said?
I do.
After Jimbo Fisher got turfed.
Boy, he was adamant.
Yeah, when you believe in what you're doing, it's pretty easy to sign up for it. I think the word commitment gets thrown around a lot and not necessarily gets reciprocated. It's something that I wanted to be a part of. This is a place that I want to be. You got $20 million? I mean, look, I don't mind, we talk about when you cook breakfast, right? The chicken, right? You pop out an egg, he's committed. But the pig, he's all in, right? That bacon, it takes a little bit more. Coaches, so often it's not fair in college football, in my opinion, when a university makes a commitment to a coach, but a coach doesn't make a commitment to that university. I want to be here, right? And believe or not believe, whatever you want. I mean, there's no secret that this is what I want. I've said before, the grass isn't always greener. I have everything I want here.
And the other thing, too, is he knows what it's like in the SEC.
Yeah.
He's seen it firsthand.
Yeah. And it's harder.
It's a grind.
Although, to be fair, it's not Raspberry Frogurt on the West Coast anymore. You are in your own little meat grinder because now you're in Big Ten country.
Yeah, but don't you think there's an element of, and I get that, but don't you think there's an element of, and I feel like it's all about how the specific coach is wired. Okay, not everybody's going to think this way, but I feel like he may. Don't you think there's an element of Oregon has generally everything it takes to win a championship without the pressure and expectations.
Yes.
You know, that's a big deal. You know, I mean, in other words, Oregon, I think, has closed the gap against the biggest jobs in America enough that the advantage of Oregon is, okay, maybe it's not Alabama. They can't pay Alabama money. But they have everything that Alabama has.
Within reason.
But I mean, and you can nitpick that. But generally speaking, it's all about, do you have what it takes to win a championship? Most of these guys are winners. They want to hoist the trophy. Mm-hmm. It's all Jim Harbaugh wanted.
Yeah.
Well, Michigan had what it took, right? Mm-hmm. We now believe, and Dan Lanning says, Oregon has what it takes. Okay, that's resources, that's recruiting, that's facilities, that's support. But the flip side of that is, it's one of the most unique spots in America that has that, but without the major live and die by wins and losses pressure of the SEC.
Yeah.
It's one of the only, like, find me another school that has what Oregon has that has less sort of pressure and expectation.
It's pretty unique in that you're right, that the bones and the structure of it are close, but they're not the same. Alabama,
I'm not saying they're the same, but they're close enough to win a championship. Yes. And when you get paid $7.5 million a year,
in Eugene, and that goes a long way.
And you're in a great part of the country. He's already talked. Another element of this, he's talked about how his family loves it, and he loves being up here. And you know, he's been in the SEC meat grinder. This is like all of that without the crap.
I will say, like, I remember when John Calipari took the Kentucky job. We've told this story on air, but Calipari was like, "Hey, I didn't really appreciate it until I tried to cut down a tree in my front yard. I tried to have a tree removed when I first got there, and it was the front page story in the paper. And people were giving me hell about a tree, and he was like, oh, this is different. This isn't Memphis. This isn't UMass. This is Kentucky. So, yeah, like I think there is something to that, what you're saying, that not everyone wants to live in the spotlight that is at Alabama.
Another guy like that, since you mentioned college basketball, Mark Few.
Yes. Had a chance to jump how many different times?
Has everything he needs. Yeah. No, what Gonzaga has is not what Kentucky has.
Yeah. But good. They can get close.
It's good enough to win a championship. Yeah. And you don't have the pressure. You are appreciated.
The only thing I'll say to that is I personally don't think he would leave for the job. I don't. Lanning does appear to be wired that he could handle the Alabama job. I think he is that sort of guy. He is not Chris Peterson. He's not Mark Few. Dan Lanning is close, and he's not Lincoln Riley. Dan Lanning is closer to Nick Saban and Kirby Smart than he is to anyone on the West Coast. That's the only thing, is I don't know if that would be the deterrent for him. I just think he taking over the Alabama job after Nick Saban. Think about that. There's never been in the history of college football, maybe Bear Bryant, but I would make the argument in today's landscape, it's still not the same. This is the biggest pair of shoes in the history of college football that you have to fill in an unprecedented time of change and everything going on in the sport. That's a lot. That's a lot for anyone to deal with.
You know, there's one guy that would want to follow in Saban's shoes. One guy crazy enough. Because I think he would want to win a title or win a couple of titles and specifically say, you like knock down Saban jokingly.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin's all about replacing Nick Saban because he wants to show him, hey, it wasn't you.
Yeah.
It wasn't all you.
Kiffin would win one and be like, what is this hard?
Yeah. Well, it's Alabama. He would want that.
I wonder what Mike Price is up to.
God. Mike Price. Would you rather have Sark or Kiffin? If you're Alabama.
Boy, that's a good question. I think I'd rather have Lane, believe it or not.
I think I would too.
Yeah, I don't love Sark the way other people love Sark.
He's good.
He's fine.
He's good.
But realize that Sark has had one really good season ever. And that was this last one. And I wasn't overly thrilled with the game plan against Washington. I don't know. Sark's fine. If they hire him, I would never say that that's a bad hire. I think I'd rather have old Laner. Plus, I kind of like Lane Kiffin and all that that goes along with him. You want to talk about a compare and contrast the seriousness of Nick Saban with whatever the hell Lane Kiffin's bringing to the table. Time. But it's
all right.
Bama's going to cast this net, and I will be very interested to see where this lands. But I'm with you that if I'm a betting man, 65.
You're at 65?
I'm at 65.
I'm at 72.
That it's not.
Lanning staying.
That it's not. I think so.
You heard it here first.
I think I would bet on him staying here, but you just can't. You can never say never in the world of college football because, well, it's college football.
All right, our poll question next on The Fan. So how much flight tracking are we going to be doing now to Tuscaloosa over the next couple weeks?
Yeah, someone said Kevin already tweeted that he was at the airport.
He did. I just looked at that. I looked at his Twitter. He did do that. 3 hours ago, he tweeted a picture of a small airport in Jacksonville.
I love Lane Kiffin. I really do.
Anyway, and somebody's saying there's some flight from Eugene to Tuscaloosa.
Jeez.
We got to I'm not looking at any of it.
No, checking. You know, where's Prime's name and all
Except
this?
that I just did.
Where's Dion?
Oh yeah.
Where's Coach Prime? He's buddies with Saban. They're doing those Aflac commercials together.
Do you believe?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
Oh no.
It's a terrible hire, but you know.
All right.
Dave Bardu texted me and said that's the worst job in the last 20 years.
What job?
The Alabama job.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? What does he mean by that?
That's what he said. He said maybe the worst job in the last 20 years. Can you imagine the pressure to replicate that? F me.
Yeah, he's talking about just the following the legend.
And that's kind of what I was saying at the beginning, that look, the Bama job.
It's a good job.
The Bama job is amazing.
Yeah, you want to be the next guy after this.
Yeah, exactly. Come talk to me.
Resurrect it.
Come talk to me after the next dude flames out. But you know, I caution anyone saying that the Alabama job is just rinse and repeat national titles, because I give you Mike DeBose, I give you Franchione. Mike Shula was the head coach there, for God's sakes, and they hired Mike Price. Nick Saban made that job what it is. It's an amazing structure of a job, but I would make the argument that it's no different than 10 other jobs. Had Nick Saban ended up at Florida or Florida State or stayed at LSU, would have been any different?
Yeah.
No, it would have been the same thing. It's just that he made it that. So,
well, he also made Georgia what it is.
Yes, because of Kirby Smart. So if you're Alabama, you better be real careful, because this is the most important hire. Like, it doesn't take long for you to go from the program in college football to what the hell happened? I'm Tennessee now. I mean, Alabama will always be relevant because the structure is always there and the fan base and all that. But this idea that it's just the next guy waltzes in there and wins a national title in 2 to 3 years, it's really hard.
I think there are two programs that are the best. If you take every coach out of every program, okay, and put them all in a pot on the sideline, and we're just going to shuffle them up and switch them around. Okay, so you don't know who the coach is. If you just look at these two programs, I think they're better than any other programs in the country. There's only two that come to my mind: Ohio State and Texas. I think those two programs are just, I mean, it really, it almost doesn't matter who the coach is. You're going to have success. Not to say you're going to win, anybody who goes there is winning a championship. I just think they have the built-in strongest elements of any programs in the country. I think for a while we thought USC had that, but I think that's proven it's not true. I think for a while we thought Alabama, but like you said, the years before Saban showed that wasn't it. Georgia's up there. I think Florida's up there. There are others, but I think those two are, if you want to talk about the best college football jobs, bar none, I think it's those two.
And the thing about some of these schools too is, with national recruiting, it's become a little bit less. It used to be, even with the big programs, it was largely regional. Now you get guys from all over, but it still holds true a little bit that if you look at Alabama, you look at Georgia, you look at Texas, you look at LSU's rosters, even Ohio, it's largely within 200 miles of where that school is. And you can put up a fence around you, and you can have the talent to win a national title. Whereas in other places, see Oregon, see Washington,
right?
You have to work a little harder to go out and find those kids, especially the big bodies. And that's the big advantage of the SEC programs is the dudes that win titles, and this is what Dan Lanning's trying to do, and he's done a really good job on both sides of the ball of bringing these kids in. It's easier to find those O-line and D-linemen in the South.
Well, just look through their rosters.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those kids, we've done this a million times.
It's backyard.
A lot of those kids are all from Alabama.
Yep.
Like, he doesn't even have to go outside of the state, but a lot of states are like that. I mean, Florida's like that. Yeah. Ohio's got a lot of kids like that.
Yeah, there's built-in
Louisiana, Georgia. So, anyway, that's just my opinion, the Ohio State Texas thing. Let's get the poll question in, and then we'll move on. AAA Heating and Cooling, family business helping families for over 60 years. AAAIAQ.com. It is on X at 1080 The Fan. Yesterday we asked you, If Michigan was the best, who was the second best team in college football? 50% said Georgia.
Yeah.
27% said Washington.
They've lost one game in 3 years.
Yeah, it was the wrong game though.
Or is the wrong? So one game they could have lost any other game that year and it would have been fine. They lost the one game they couldn't lose.
Oregon 22% and Ohio State 1%. Today we're asking you, which coach would you most want for your NFL team? Excuse me. And I've switched these names around a million times because great coaches keep stepping down or getting fired. So Belichick was on here, but I yanked him off. So here, the latest one is, which coach would you most want for your NFL team? Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, Mike Vrabel, or Nick Saban?
Hey, Nicky.
Put Nicky on there.
Hey, Nicky.
Since he's now available.
I'll take Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to win.
That guy doesn't lose wherever he goes. He just wins.
He's great.
He's an ass. And he wears you out.
And there's a little story in every one of those pieces of confetti up there.
But that guy wins.
All right, that's your poll question. It's on X at 1080 The Fan. Vote hard. Let's get to Pete Carroll. He is out in Seattle. We'll do that next on The Fan.
The two NBA conference leaders go head-to-head. I'm Aaron Hawksworth, here to help you beat the books with BetQL. The West-leading Timberwolves and East-leading Celtics face off in Boston tonight. The odds makers don't see this as an even matchup. Boston is an 8-point favorite, and the BetQL model likes the C's. Boston -8 is a 5-star best bet. I'm Aaron Hawksworth. Bet smarter, beat the books. Download the BetQL and BetMGM apps today.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. All
big day, busy day. Big day, busy day. It's 4:06 with Isaac. That's me, Big Sook's right over there. We lost Nick Saban today. He has retired, and we spoke about that ad nauseum.
He didn't die.
He is dead. Rest in peace, Nick Saban. Dan Lanning, one of the top names on their list. We discussed that at length in the first hour. Now, we also have Pete Carroll retiring, and he unfortunately, well, not retiring, he moves into an advisory role with the Seahawks. They basically shoved him out of the coaching job. But that one is taking a back seat. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Well, Pete's one of the best to ever do it.
Yes.
I mean,
at all levels.
National championships at USC, Super Bowl in Seattle, should have won 2 Super Bowls. Problem is that Nick Saban has 7 national championships and isn't one of the best. He is the best college football coach of all time. But if you wanted to say who's like him and Jimmy Johnson, Pete, of the coaches that have done both, Jimmy's probably the only one with a better resume.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yes.
There's no question. Best coach the Seahawks ever had.
Oh, 100%.
And
he's there for 14 years. I think only Bill and Tomlin have been there longer. And the thing I like about Pete Carroll is once they got it rolling there, and it didn't take them long, through all the different versions of this team, from, the first day he got there to going through the Russell Wilson, phase and then transitioning away from Russ, they were never irrelevant. They just weren't.
No, he kept them.
He kept
kind of like this year. It's like,
yes, they weren't great.
Yeah, but they were 9-8.
But they were never irrelevant under Pete Carroll. And
he's a good coach.
Yeah, he's a hell of a coach. The accomplishments are massive.
Yeah, I mean, we know that. I guess first place I go is, well, should he be forced out of there? And I see both sides of it. He's a legend. There's no question, and he still has the energy. It's this whole idea that the game's passed him by. I don't know about that. I mean, I think he's made some changes on his staff, and their offense was better. Mm-hmm. So I think he gets. I think he gets it, but at the same time, I totally see why they may be moving on. And it sounds like Dan Quinn may be the guy.
Yeah, there were a lot. Well, obviously he has ties there. When they went to this.
Twice.
He's been there twice, and he was I think he was the head coach in Atlanta for 5-6 years and was successful. He was, for God's sakes, he was 28-3.
Yeah, he's a hell of a coach.
He's a hell of a coach, and look at what he's done down in Dallas. So yes, I think it was. I'm trying to remember who the reporter was, but it was one of the national NFL guys said Dan Quinn to Seattle, mark it down in pen.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're going to move on from Pete, they don't take this lightly, right? Like Jody Allen sent out a big thing about, very, just praising Pete Carroll. It's like, hey, we figured it's time now to move him out of the head coaching role and into an advisory role. It's a very nice way of putting that they fired him. But I would imagine that they don't do that without knowing who they're going to get, right? Like you don't just, let's see if maybe, a hot coordinator or something. Nah, I think Dan Quinn's probably always been in the back of their mind. And you mentioned that, I don't know who the reporter was, but somebody did mention that the Seahawks have always had a problem since Dan Quinn left, that their defense never got back to the Dan Quinn level. Now, Dan Quinn had he had the best roster, but Dan Quinn, I mean, look at what he's doing with the Cowboys.
He's a hell of a coach.
He is an excellent coach, and he's a guy who you knew was going to get another shot as an NFL head coach. Yeah. And it does make a lot of sense that he would be the guy in Seattle.
If you think that Pete has 1 or 2 more years, and and he said he wanted to come back for it would have been his 15th season there. He would have been 73 going into 74 next. If he would have stayed for another year. And you feel like Dan Quinn is your next guy. And John Schneider, who, by the way, is elevated. One of the reasons behind this is that Pete has had operational control of the Seahawks. Pete Carroll picked John Schneider. So when Pete got the job, him and Paul Allen sat down and he talked about it in the press conference, and Pete said, no, let me pick my GM. So Pete handpicked Schneider, and they have a wonderful relationship. But make no mistake about it, Pete Carroll was the Lord and Savior and King Poobah of that organization. And it sounds like it was time to transition to John Schneider. And if John Schneider felt and convinced Jody Allen and the powers that be that Dan Quinn is indeed the guy we want to go get, Dan Quinn probably wasn't going to be around in another year. So it does make sense to say, Pete, I understand, but we're not in contention to win a title. You're not winning a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. We're probably going to have to go in a new direction at quarterback. We need to change directions. And if Dan's the guy to do it, doesn't that make sense that Pete Carroll would understand that? Because he wasn't mad. That press conference was all love and rainbows, and I love John Schneider, and I'm going to my advisory role. That to me seems, and I'll bet you as this goes on that we hear more about this, I'm guessing that was the conversation of Pete. And Pete said in the press conference, he said, we've lost our edge to be great. Like being good isn't good enough. And I think that's kind of where all this stems for, is that Pete knows that it's going to be a little bit, and he's not going to be around in 2 or 3 years. So if Dan's the guy, you do it now. Pete's still a part of it. Schneider gets elevated, final control, and away you go.
Here is Pete. I think this is a little bit of what you were talking about at that press conference today. If you guys didn't catch it, here's a little bit of that. It's about a minute long. Him talking about mutually agreeing on the change.
For a variety of reasons, we have mutually agreed to set a new course and for the club to take on new leadership. And that's just a decision that's been made. And there's a lot that went into that and a lot that went behind that. And for all my guys, I think you know how much I probably competed for our perspective and our standpoint and all of that. I freaking didn't back off for an instant. And what's going to happen now is the process will start to get new leadership here, and then that'll be on Johnny's docket. He's going to get after that and make that happen with help of ownership and all that, and we'll be supporting them as much as possibly can happen so that they can do a great job with it. I'm so grateful to the coaches that have been with us for so many years. Also, all of the coaches that have been here for the years before that put up with my stuff and found way, to bring it to life daily. And I have great gratitude for that.
Sounds a little tongue-tied there.
Yeah. It was emotional, and he again goes on. I think he called his wife the angel of his life, and he got emotional. It was a really, I don't know if you saw much of it, but I was watching the press conference. It was nice. It got me a couple times. I was like, oh damn, Pete.
Don't think I've seen him so emotional.
No, and by the way, he even says in there too, Pete wants to keep coaching. He just. The mutually, again, this is why I go back to the new direction, losing the edge to be great.
He gets it.
Elevating John Schneider to make final say. Pete saw the writing on the wall, and he had 1 or 2 more years left, and it just wasn't good enough to do this again. He knows that they cannot be great the way this is assembled, and so major changes have to be, and it makes total sense to actually have the guy that's going to be the coach in 3 or 4 years to be the one at the forefront of that. And who wants to, at 73, to give up the control that you've had for 15 years? And that sounds like that was a no-brainer where they were like, hey, Schneider's the guy now, and we're moving on.
Here's a little more.
It's been an honor and a thrill to be part of this program, and I've loved every minute of it, and you've watched me love it in particular, and it's exciting that there's such a future here, and you can see it, and we know what's happening, and it's bright, and the club's got great places to go, and there's great chances. It don't ever happen automatically. There's a lot of work to be done and all of that, but the future is bright.
So the next question is, and we'll ask this when we get back, would another franchise hire Pete right now, and would he go? Is he going to coach again? That's an interesting question.
Yeah. And look, since he got there, remember, he went 7-9 in his first year, and they won the division, and they lost in the divisional game to the Bears. But like 7-9, but you won the division, made the playoffs. And after that, the next 13 seasons, he had 2 seasons where he didn't 500 or better. I mean, his record there is, that's why I said they were never irrelevant for 1 season since he got there. And that's, in the NFL, that's a hell of an accomplishment.
All right, we'll get to that next. It's 4:15 on The Fan.
The Seahawks come
no one hires a coach thinking he's going to be there for 2 to 3 years, and Pete's not going to coach until he's 76 or, come on.
Really? This is totally fantasy scenario for me, but it would never happen. He's not going to get along with the owner, but Carolina, that 5-year reclamation project for Pete Carroll, like one last go around.
Really? You want a 77-year-old Pete Carroll?
You know what? It's better than what they've had the last. You know what? Even I would say those last 3 years were on Rivera. That's better than what they had. So yes, I would.
No one hires a 74 or 75-year-old coach, and
especially a defensive guy. But he's not 74 or 75. He's 72, and I think
he will be when this season
73.
happens. He'll be 73,
but I think to his point though, he's saying Pete Carroll could be a stopgap. If you've got a guy, because one, he's got experience being a sort of a GM, right? Like he's a guy who is involved in that process, and you kind of need some help in that regard. Like he's an older guy who can come in, set a culture.
There you go.
Help you, kind of identify some guys, build it the way he built it, and then he hands it off to the young coach in 3 years or whatever. I mean, I don't know. If there is a scenario where he returns, I could see that one being more plausible.
Shocked. Full on head to the carpet sewn Clark W. Griswold if he coaches somewhere else. Like, again, it's just he's in an offensive league. He's a defensive guy. In the last 2 years, they've been fine, 9-8. He's a hell of a guy. He's energetic. He's a culture guy. It's hard to replicate Pete's culture. It just doesn't. Like you said, the only way it would work is that if Pete had some young assistant or a young GM, and it would, like you said, it was a full on coach, GM, and waiting thing. But no one's turning their franchise over again to a guy that's going to be 73 at the start of the NFL season. So, which is why I think you saw Pete be emotional and say that he may want to do it, but it's why he's going to be in the advisory role there. He'll be a part of Seattle. He'll still be hanging around, but he knows that it's time. And you see this a lot with coaches that don't necessarily go out like on awful terms, but they do go out. At least in college, you can get another job, at some little small place or whatever, but there's only 32 of these jobs and no one's given one to Pete Carroll.
Would someone hire Belichick?
Again, I don't think there will be a robust market for him.
But would someone hire him?
I think there's a better chance of that, but again,
he's the same age.
He's the same age. Again, I don't think so. I think if Bill's done in New England, I think he's done. Again, is Bill willing to work with a GM? Are you trying to set the culture? How long can you expect him to coach? Again, it appears that the game is passed by Bill more than it has Pete. The only reason that I think Bill would get the benefit of the doubt is, again, Bill's the GOAT. Pete's very good and a Hall of Famer. Bill's the GOAT, but I don't hear anyone knocking down Bill Belichick's door if he hangs it up or if he gets pushed out in New England. Certainly, I wouldn't trust Bill to around my young quarterback. Let's say I'm Washington, or Chicago's actually keeping Eberflus for some godforsaken reason. So let's go with Washington, right? Washington is picking number 2, and they're going to draft, Drake May or whoever, right? Whoever the number 2 coach, Jaden Daniels. Do you really want to say, coming into this league, Jaden Daniels, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give you to Bill Belichick, and Bill isn't going to be here for 5 years, but it's probably good for another 2 or 3. Yeah, we trust him to really, really grow and nurture, and he's really going to connect with the 22-year-old African-American quarterback. Yeah, it doesn't work. So no, I think if Bill has another year in New England, that's one thing, but I think if he gets pushed out next, I don't think you see Bill or Pete surface again, other than in an advisory sort of role.
Yeah, I think it's funny that, Belichick for one more year in New England somehow makes sense when nobody else would hire him, right? It's like, why are you bringing him back?
Yeah.
Nobody wants him. Like, you wouldn't want him if he were on the market, so why are you bringing him back?
Yeah. By the way, would you care to guess what the oldest NFL coach in history that's ever coached? How old?
I thought Howard. Did you say NFL?
NFL.
Oh, well, in college, I thought, wasn't Howard Schnellenberger out there until he was 800?
He was, and that's what I'm saying. Some of those college guys, you can bum around lesser programs, and someone will hire you. I'm not talking college.
Well, I'm guessing it's Pete Carroll.
Romeo Crennel at 73 years old is the oldest guy to ever coach a NFL game. George Halas, 72 years old. Marv Levy, 72 years old. Pete Carroll, number 4 right now.
Yeah, Schnellenberger was 77.
So why on earth is someone going to hire Pete Carroll, who's already the 4th oldest, and by the way, if he coached next year, would indeed be the oldest to ever do it, and you're telling me that you're going to get him to stick around for you? That's your plan? Is that he's gonna be 75, 76?
Well,
It's not.
Okay, I get it. But to my point, why would you bring back Belichick then? Like, what is the point of that?
They shouldn't. They should.
Exactly.
The only reason
What are they doing?
The only reason they bring back Bill is because of what he had done. You know,
that's a terrible
also,
reason.
You said yesterday Robert Kraft will not want to pay him to do nothing.
I forget who it was. One of the might have been Bill Cowher. I don't know. One of the guys on the NFL shows said, everything I know about Robert Kraft is he is not keen to paying Bill, and Bill gets paid a lot. He's the highest paid coach in North American sports. Robert Kraft may not be keen on paying Bill to not coach, and may not be keen on firing the greatest coach of all time. But if you bring Bill back, all you're doing, like, again, it's not Zappy. They're going to draft their quarterback, and you're just delaying the inevitable. And no offense to Bill, maybe because there's a rumor too that old Joshy might come back and be willing to work with Nick
McDaniels.
Yeah, that he may be willing to come back, and maybe that would set a little bit better. But I don't want to turn over my first year quarterback to Bill Belichick and whoever the hell his offensive coordinator is. At least he brought back Bill O'Brien, at least knew what he was doing. But again, that didn't work well with Mac Jones and Zappy. So I don't know what Robert Kraft's doing, but both of those just feel like and at least Seattle realized that it's time.
Yeah, I was going to say then you give credit to Seattle.
Yeah.
Because they realize it.
And Seattle's not even bad. Seattle was 1 win away from the playoffs. New England freaking sucks.
They should hire Bill Schneider.
How old's Bill Schneider?
84. And he was 79 when he retired at Kansas State.
I mean,
the second time.
Joe Paul was in his 80s, right? He was like 83, I think. When he got fired.
Yeah, there you go.
He was so old.
And by the way, like, he died shortly thereafter. My favorite Penn State story of all time.
What year did he die?
It was like a year or two after the whole scandal. So
it was less than that. It was months after.
So however long ago that was.
2012.
2012.
Seems like a long time ago.
My favorite Joe Paterno, Joe Paterno had nothing to do with that program. And I had one of these coaches. Lavelle Edwards, rest in peace. Great guy. I had nothing bad to say about Lavelle Edwards. When I got to BYU, I did not appreciate the fact that Lavelle Edwards did nothing. Norm Chow was my head coach for 4 years. Lavelle Edwards took naps out at practice, for God's sake. He would sit in his golf cart and he fell asleep during practice. And then you'd look over there and be like, hey, is Lavelle asleep? Is Lavelle asleep? And then Norm would tell you to shut up in his Polynesian accent. And then at the end of the practice, Lavelle would come over and tell us where we were going to eat dinner that night. And then, whatever.
Rah-rah team.
Yeah. It's just, he was there. He was a figurehead. He got my dumb ass to go there. But Joe Pa, Terrell Pryor was the number 1 recruit in the country. The number 1 recruit of all positions. And Terrell Pryor lived like 100 miles from the Penn State campus. Like he was in their backyard. And Terrell Pryor said that Joe Paterno could not be bothered to visit Terrell Pryor because Joe Paterno didn't go out on recruiting trips. And they were like Terrell Pryor, well, you can go find it. He was like, I couldn't believe it. Terrell Pryor's family was like, are you serious? Like, every other school in the country is beating down our door, and your head coach can't be bothered to get in a car and have someone drive him like an hour and a half to visit the number 1 player in the country who wants to come to Penn State. And where did he end up going? Ohio State. Like, that's what Joe Paterno was. It was a joke. So at the end, when people are like, oh, Joe Paterno's still doing it. No, he's not. Just like Bobby Bowden was.
He was 84.
He was 84. And Bobby Bowden at the end, none of these guys coach. They're just there.
And he died at 85.
They're there to raise money, and the boosters love them. It's a weekend at Bernie's thing, for God's sake.
Wasn't he like fired mid-season because that's when all the Sandusky stuff, and then he died like in January after the season, right? It was not long.
I would also like to point out that all of these things that we've talked about, that under no circumstances would you hire a 74 or 75-year-old man to run your college football program. It just would never happen. You wouldn't hire a 75-year-old man to run anything. I want you to realize that the two people that will run for president of this country are both significantly older than what we just talked about. So just saying. Can't be trusted to run Penn State or Florida State or the Seahawks, but running the most powerful nation on the planet? Absolutely. Either one of them. That sounds like a great idea. Holy hell.
All right, let's move on. I've got another door plug follow-up. This is door plug follow-up number 4 in the news.
Hot plug talk. I'm here for it.
Is this going to get me going?
Well, probably.
All right.
And another Alaska flight with an emergency landing at PDX.
I'm flying Alaska later this month. I don't.
It's getting wild out there.
I don't like this.
I looked up my flight to Vegas next month.
Yeah.
Not the 737 MAX 9.
Woo!
So then it was some sort of, I don't know what they call it, what the plane was, but then I had to go look it up as if I would understand anything I'm reading about.
All the aeronautical knowledge that you've accrued over your lifetime.
I was like, well, let me see if this is a good plane or not.
Was it like an Embraer, a little smaller regional?
What? No. I'll tell you. It was called
what?
An Embraer, yeah.
Look at Schultz over there, master of the skies. Embraer. I'm only flying Airbuses from now on. I'm trusting the British.
I don't know. I'll tell you next. I'll go find it.
Going with the Brits.
Here is Schultz with SportsCenter.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. Their butchers are all trained chefs eager to help with cooking advice. Get to know your friendly neighborhood butcher online at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on The Fan, huge, epic news in college football today. A shocking retirement. Alabama head coach Nick Saban announcing he's stepping down after 17 seasons with the program, including 6 national championships in just a 12-year span. And Action Network's Brett McMurphy reporting that Oregon's Dan Lanning is expected to be their top choice to replace Saban. More shocking news out of the NFL today as Seattle Seahawks owner Jody Allen announced that the team has decided to remove head coach Pete Carroll and transition him into an advisory role. After being hired in 2010, the 72-year-old Carroll finishes up his tenure as the winningest coach in team history, along with 10 playoff appearances and 1 Super Bowl win. Elsewhere in the NFL, the Chicago Bears deciding to keep Matt Eberflus as their head coach, but they're moving on from offensive coordinator Luke Getsky after going 7-10 this year. Some good news for the Cleveland Browns, though. Receiver Amari Cooper will be playing in their wild card matchup with the Texans on Saturday after dealing with a heel injury and missing the last couple of games. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
The inside story on the Blazers, Ducks, and Beavers. Danny and Dusty. Weekdays noon to 3 on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Made to shine. Real stories from Shane Company customers.
So last week, my boyfriend said, I have a surprise for you. And I totally thought he was going to propose, but it was just tickets to a baseball game. Then during the game, Will You Marry Me was up on the big screen, and he was down on one knee holding the most beautiful engagement ring. It was so sparkly.
Our expert jewelers set every center stone by hand, so you'll shine forever. Shane Company, fine jewelry since 1929.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? You sell high commission investment products, right?
No, Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our client's best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
Save thousands. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to save thousands on a hot tub and swim spa. Friday through Sunday, Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. Save thousands. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to save thousands on a hot tub and swim spa. Friday through Sunday, Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. 18-month interest-free financing. Brand new 2024 inventory ready for immediate delivery. Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates. This weekend only. Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Come see the revolutionary new swim spa in action at exceptional prices. Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission. Free delivery. Clark County Event Center at the fairgrounds. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Hey, it's Suk. Mexico has long been my travel destination go-to. The weather, the culture, and of course, the food. Now, I can't help you with the weather or the culture, but if you want the food without leaving Portland, check out Toro Mexican Kitchen. The newest restaurant from Mark and Carla Byram and the Urban Restaurant Group is outstanding. From tacos to the steaks to their house cocktails, the dinner and drink menu is packed with bold flavors from Mexico. Toro Mexican Kitchen. Transport yourself to Baja, Mexico with delicious regional dishes and cocktails. Book your table today at toropdx.com.
This is a wild card week edition of Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
So I looked it up. So I've got a flight to Vegas next month. Alaska, 737-800 winglet. That's what they call it.
A winglet? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I looked it up and I approve.
I think winglet means it's a bit of a smaller variation, but that's
it. Doesn't look small, but it's I think it's some sort of technology. I was reading about it today. It sounded cool, and I got to tell you,
you're going down
with my deep with my deep aviation background. I approve of the winglet, and I'm glad it's not a 737 MAX 9 or whatever they're called.
I'd rather it be the 9 than the 8. The 8 was the one with the rudder problems that people were crashing and dying. At least the plug is just I get scared and my shirt comes off.
So check this, Meatball of Meatball fame.
Yes,
he's flying to Miami on Thursday for some reason.
All right.
And his flight was just canceled because he was on the 737 MAX 9 or whatever.
Yeah, all those planes got grounded. It's not like they just have a bunch of spares ready to roll out. And quite frankly, I'm not certain that I'd want the spare plane.
Yeah, he's got rebooked, but yeah. He's 3 for 3. His last 3 flights have been canceled.
Oh, bad omen.
It's not going well for him. It is January 10, 2024. It's time for In the News. I'm your newsman. Hello, thank you. Thank you so much. Having a good time today. It is Houseplant Appreciation Day.
I don't have any houseplants.
You don't have one houseplant?
I don't think so.
Really?
I'm trying to think.
Houseplants are great.
I've tried a couple bonsais. I kill them. My gal always puts one up in the bathroom, but it always dies. So, no, I think I've got a couple fakers, but I do not believe that I have a... We do flowers a bunch. You know, we get flowers quite a bit.
Fresh flowers. That's always nice.
But I don't believe we have a plant.
Well, I, for one, appreciate houseplants.
We're a houseplant murdering sort of family.
And it is a peculiar people day.
No.
Do you know anybody who's really peculiar?
I know lots of people that are peculiar.
Who's the most peculiar guy at the fan?
Isn't peculiar offensive now?
Why is that offensive?
I don't know. I kind of thought it meant weird, but maybe I'm.
Well, it kind of does. Maybe odd.
Could be unique.
Yeah, unique.
At the fan?
Yeah, who's the most peculiar guy at the fit? That's probably Swigard, right?
Yeah.
He's pretty peculiar.
He's a different sort of cat. He's, I can't quite put my finger on what he's got going on.
That's why he's peculiar.
Yeah.
All right. Glad we covered that. Some parts of Portland and Southwest Washington got snow this morning.
We got drilled last night.
3 inches.
At my place. So she said. We got quite a bit. Didn't really stick or anything in the morning.
She got 3 inches.
That's enough, right?
Southwest Washington.
A lot of Southwest Washington 3 inches. And let me tell you, it's plenty.
Somebody said, conspiracy theory, we're making planes come back to Portland to help us get back to #1 voted airport.
I like it.
Well, another Alaska flight. Anybody have any other hot snow commentary? Although it was not a thing at my house. But
a wintry mix.
Up at, I'm sure up at the West Hills and all that.
Higher.
Us poors down here, we were fine.
I will tell you that no one that I've ever met gets more excited about snow than my gal. It's unbelievable.
I'll give you my wife.
Yeah, same sort of thing.
It'd be a battle. She not only gets fired up, she gets very scared. Above driving and preparing. It's just like, oh my God.
We were sitting on the couch and last night, and she goes, "It looks like it's almost snowing out there." She goes, "Look at the size of those raindrops." And I was like, whatever, I keep watching what I'm doing. And then she goes, "Oh my," and jumps off the couch, runs to the back, and then runs back as if to tell me that ninjas are breaking into the house and that is indeed snow. And then she immediately had to go to the phone and look up the weather forecast. Well, you see it's snowing. Yes, but we had to know how much. It was a whole thing. And then she went outside, and then she has to see how cold it is. She has to see what's happening with the snow, experience it. It's a whole thing.
It is. I contend that snow is one of the most overrated things in the planet, on the earth.
I never
overrated.
I never left the couch. I was one of these. That's great, honey.
Give me another thing that's cool about snow other than it can be pretty.
Well, if you're into snow sports.
Yeah, I was going to say, snowmobiling sounds awesome, and it is awesome.
I do like a good snow machine, but I'm not a skier. I'm not a snowboarder.
No.
I do like drinking at the lodge, though, which is really the only reason why I snowmobile is to go to the lodge and then drink. Yeah, that's wonderful.
For the second time in 5 days, an Alaska Airlines flight had to make an unplanned landing at Portland International Airport. This was yesterday. Remember we were talking about Dusty finding the...
Dusty found an airplane seat sitting on the side of the road outside of Germantown Road.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
We were like, well, maybe there's another one. Another door plug.
The plugs just aren't holding like they used to. Back in my day, plugs held.
Well, there was another flight that had to make an emergency landing. This one, they reported communication issues. They were flying from Seattle to Honolulu when the issue occurred, and the plane landed safely around 12:30 in the afternoon.
I can only imagine how angry you would be if your Hawaii flight landed due to communication issues. You may lose it.
Well, yeah, again... Okay, communication issues. Go to Honolulu and deal with it there.
Over the open ocean, Rob?
Yes.
Really? God.
Yes. Over the open ocean. What's the worst that can happen? Don't answer that. I need to get to Hawaii. And what does communication issues even mean? Come on.
You probably can't communicate with the tower.
Well, they're probably too chatty anyway. Shut up.
What if you had to turn around and it turned out that the pilot just had flicked the wrong switch? He had turned off the comms.
Alaska $12.95. How you doing up there? What'd you have for lunch? Really?
I don't think you're allowed to fly without comms.
Shut up.
I don't think you can just lose an airplane.
Well, I know, but you're already in the air, so you might as well go to where you're going.
Yeah, keep going.
Can't talk to anybody anyway. Why are you talking to the people in Portland? How'd you land in Portland? What's the difference? Land in Honolulu.
Honolulu is
nice. They should
nice.
Put me in charge.
Put you in charge of all flight.
I think all those profiteers would like somebody like you running their companies. You're not wrong.
Like on 9/11 when they had to ground every single airplane, and Rob's like, whoa.
Wait a minute.
Whoa. Are we going nice places? We'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Jamaica? They're not bombing Jamaica.
Keep it open.
Let's go.
The documentary on that, though, the task of having to land all those airplanes, I forget the name of it. It's out there. You can find it on Netflix or Hulu or whatever. It's incredible. I did not realize the task that the Federal Transportation Board or whatever that has to keep track of all those planes in the air at once. It's insane.
Okay, you ready for the door plug follow-up number 4?
I love the plug talk.
You love a good plug.
Love it.
I'll get to that next. Oh, see what I did there?
You teasing the plug.
Damn. Yeah, we got the latest on Alaska Airlines and the investigation into their door plugs next on The Fan.
It's The Fan on Demand. Service Patriots brings you fan podcasts. Soup.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
On 1080 The Fan.
All right, this is in the news for Jan 10, 2024. Can you believe that? 2024. Wow. I mean, seriously, wow. Wow.
It's just another year getting older. A lot more gray, more rickety.
What? I'm 35.
Whoa.
I think I'm realizing, or I will be 35 in a month and a half, and I think I'm realizing this is more the midlife point for most than like 40 or 50.
Getting that crisis, are you?
You start to think, like, a lot of people die in their 70s. I'm near halfway there.
Schultz will be buying a leather jacket pretty soon.
Probably.
Dyeing his hair.
I still got to get my Miata.
Your Miata.
Schultz's dream car. You were gone, but he
hasn't. Really?
His dream car is a convertible Miata.
It's either a BMW Z3, or I'm the roadster guy, or because of my grandpa, rest in peace. Love you very much, Papa. He always drove around a 91 silver Mazda Miata. And
why are you laughing at him? It's sentimental.
I dare to dream.
God, you're a D.
What? I'm excited for him. He's got an achievable dream.
I have a Miata story.
Ooh.
So I was a young, up-and-coming radio star. Okay. Radio host.
No, Mr. A-lister over there. I get it.
At Intercom Radio. And I was outside with a guy who was smoking a cigarette out in the front of our building back when smoking cigarettes were a thing. Mm-hmm. And this guy was a prominent DJ on local radio because, we have a bunch of radio stations.
Yep.
And I set I had a coffee mug, I think, or some sort of drink cup, and I set it on his car.
Oh, and it was a Miata, huh?
And it was a Mazda Miata.
How dare you?
Parked right in front, backed in, all fancy-like.
Looking sexy.
And it happened to be the dude who was smoking, and he let me have it. He's like, "What are you doing?
Don't disrespect this Miata."
And I'm like, "Dude, it's a Miata." So then I poured the drink on the car.
Please, that's funny.
No, I didn't do that. But I learned to respect his car. I mean, he was not happy about it.
No.
Ended up being a great dude. I hope he's still out. I mean, he's not on the radio anymore locally, but I hope he's still out there and living a fun life of smoking Camel Lights.
Schultz, looks like
driving his Mazda Miata.
Looks like you can pick up one of those bad boys for about $6,800, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it isn't a very achievable dream.
Let's go.
Hell, we might just buy you one.
I mean,
we can probably do a GoFundMe and raise you a 91 Miata. Let's maybe some miles on it.
If you ever wanted to see me freak out more than I do about sports, that would be the way.
Boy, I'm trying to imagine anyone freaking out over a used 90 Miata, but hey, to each their own.
The manufacturer of the door plug that was blown out in midair during an Alaska Airlines flight on Friday was the focus of a class action lawsuit filed less than a month earlier, with the complaint alleging that Spirit Aerosystems had experienced sustained quality failures in its products.
Whoops.
Uh-oh. The complaint, initially filed in federal court in May and amended in December, was filed on behalf of investors in Spirit Aerosystems, which they were originally a manufacturing unit of Boeing until it was spun off in 2005. Now, I would like to point out that this company has no relationship with Spirit Airlines, so to not connect those two.
Although feel free if you'd like to. I'm not here to judge. I don't want to fly with these plugs, and I don't want to fly with Spirit Airlines either way.
According to the suit, Spirit relies heavily on Boeing for orders and manufactures much of the aviation giant's jet fuselages. The lawsuit was earlier reported by the investigative publication The Lever.
Isn't it, I swear, anytime there's something like this, or anytime there's a shooting, which is like every other day, there's always like 1,000 warnings that we just ignore. It's like, hey,
it always comes out later.
Yeah, our products are failing, and we all know that they're failing, and then everyone's like, we'll be fine until something happens. Then we're like, damn it, we might have looked into that.
Good old human nature.
Hey, that dude that shot up the school in Iowa, apparently he was online telling everyone that he was going to shoot up a school. Yeah. And then we were like, oh, he actually did it. Oh.
Yeah, so Alaska and United, they are two U.S. carriers who have Boeing 737 MAX 9s.
Yeah.
And they have since said that they found loose bolts inside several other door plugs on jets. So, it's not really Boeing.
Yeah.
As much as it is this
supplier.
Yeah, and somebody said that we had a Boeing guy text in yesterday who said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, Boeing standards, he goes, trust me, Boeing's safety standards are at the highest level. He said when you get into problems is when you have the subs and you sub out some of the work, and some of those companies is when, and that's what it sounds like this issue is.
Well, and it's like everyone does it. I remember when I was ordering we got one of the new Ford Broncos a couple years back, and that's the problem is like with Ford doesn't make all of those. Like someone makes their roofs, and someone makes their convertible tops, and someone else makes their, calipers and all that. And so, like you can have the best quality standards in the world, but if some dip ass that's in charge of a part, and you would think something like a plug, you would think that that's not a big deal. But if the company's out there with their head up their arse, next thing you know, you got people being sucked out of airplanes.
Yeah, they got a lot of, I'm reading through all the issues they allege with Spirit. It's, the list is long. but nothing specifically with door plugs. Okay, so this is just another thing they added to the list of
just add one more
defective things that these guys did. Now they have issued a statement. We should give them their say.
We've done nothing wrong.
It says strongly disagrees with the assertions made by plaintiffs in the amended complaint and intends to vigorously defend against these claims. Spirit will not comment further as to the pending litigation.
We have done an internal investigation, and we're surprised with how awesome we really are.
Yeah, they're saying the lawsuit alleges Spirit's problems were widespread, including the routine presence of foreign objects in Spirit products. Oh my God. Missing fasteners, peeling paint, poor skin quality.
This is an airplane parts company?
I just have this idea of someone with one of these metal plugs, and then someone's like, we're running short on the metal. Like, just use plastic. So it's got a PVC pipe in there. Like, I don't know. I found some of this laying around. There's a carrot in one of the plugs. You're like, I don't know.
Oh, there's been a couple of accidents because of misused parts. Kind of fits. Yeah, that's happened. There have been repairs like, that works, and then obviously it does not.
Two specific manufacturing problems. The first involved a claim that Spirit had misdrilled holes on the 737 MAX on the 737 MAX aft pressure bulkhead, which we all know what that is, of course.
Who doesn't? I got 3 of those in my garage right now, and I'll tell you what, I'm not misdrilling those.
The second alleged problem involves a defect relating to the tail fin fittings on certain aircraft, all flagged by Boeing.
Yeah, so Boeing caught it. And you know.
Yep. So
it is amazing you think about the number of parts on an airplane because I was reading a book once on on NASA, and they were talking about the space shuttle, and I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's something ridiculous, like 80 or 90,000 separate parts on the space shuttle, that if one of them fails, and like 60 or 70% of those are move hinges or a part of it that has to be able to move and flex, and if one of those parts fails, it can lead to mission failure. And I don't know if you know anything about the old space shuttle mission failure, but no one comes back from that.
Oh, you mean like Challenger? Like when they knew the O-rings were faulty?
It's like terrifying when you think about it. Like, you're getting on an airplane. How many parts on an airplane that if one of those goes wrong, whoops. It amazes me that more of this stuff doesn't happen, because it just seems like it's just not, it goes against nature that you have that big ass metal thing and it just goes up in the sky and we take it for granted. You just say, I'm going to Vegas and I'm half drunk on the plane, taking Ambien. I trust it. It'll be fine. Leaving the Earth's crust to go fly to a different part of it. You'll be fine. No big deal.
All right, that's in the news, Jan 10, 2024. The Hot 5 at 5 is coming up next, and if you're just tuning into your hot sports talk today, it is going to be a doozy. So
there's that. It's already been a doozy.
Well, no, I'm saying, like, if you don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, imagine getting in your car at 5 and you've just been.
The Hot 5 is actually it's going to come in handy today. Let's put it that way. There's a lot going on.
There is
big news. 4:58 on the Fan.
Class is in session at the Portland Winterhawks hockey game on Monday.
Wednesday program. A lot of big sports news today, which we'll get to in a second. My name is Rob. Big Sucre over there.
Yeah, I thought it'd just be a calm little Wednesday.
I know.
Maybe talk about Super Wildcard Weekend, and then
I'm a little pissed off because I'm looking at my notes. So
your award-winning show prep this morning was probably dialed in.
It was, and I thought it was going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about the coldest games ever. We're going to talk about Joe Flacco. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers being a douchebag
and getting booted off the McAfee show.
Yes, all kinds of great stuff. And then the Seahawks moved Pete Carroll into an advisory role. I'm like, well, there goes all that. And then 30 minutes later, Nick Saban retires. And I'm like, well, hell. Now, this is where the award-winning show prep makes it easy because I have so much in my notes now because these two headline stories have knocked everything else down.
Yes.
I don't have to prep for the next 2 days.
No.
I'm ready to go.
Just roll through this.
Wild Card Weekend, let's go. Thursday, Friday show is going to be a breeze.
Super Wild Card Weekend.
It is super.
I don't like you calling it a Wild Card Weekend.
So coming up,
super.
We'll talk about Saban's legacy. We'll talk more about Pete Carroll and what happens next in Seattle. The club tonight. When you get rich, apparently you also get bored. We have that, the UFO edition. The UFO edition of that.
Won't someone please think of Jim Irsay and his rich white billionaire problems?
What else is I going to... Oh, the world's largest cruise ship is ready to set sail?
We talked about that.
We did?
We did.
Oh, I should delete that.
Yeah. No, we got to that one.
Okay, next on the list.
Come on down.
I'll keep going down.
Yeah.
It says, can AI find romantic matches?
Oh, no.
That from the Wall Street Journal.
That's the next dating show? The best dating show going is still that naked dating show on HBO.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while.
If you need like just a quick 30 minutes, like sometimes like you're sitting down and you don't have a lot of time, like 30 minutes, that naked dating or whatever, it's a solid one for that.
Also, fantasy football payoffs are happening all around the United States this week.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen any of those out there?
Yeah.
We shall discuss. But hey, right now, the very important and jam-packed Hot 5 at 5.
Oh! Hot topics, hot opinions.
Oh, golly, I'm hot today.
And hot air. It's time for the Hot 5 at 5.
That's hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 on Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
No, I mean it. That's very hot.
The Hot 5 at 5 with Isaac and Sue. Brought to you on The Fan by Victor Rico's Mexican Food, the most popular burrito spot in Oregon. Online at victorricos.com. Number 5.
The Bears will keep head coach Matt Eberflus.
Can't really understand why, but all right.
Well, they won 4 of their final 6.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did have a 4-game improvement, and there were signs of life. You would think, though, that with the whole idea of keeping Eberflus, the players supposedly like him, and you're trying to keep some continuity, then why fire the offensive coordinator and force Justin Fields to learn yet another offense?
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Luke Getsy, their offense coordinator, gets the axe.
Yeah, he gone.
Yeah, that's very strange. But maybe they have somebody in mind that they think would be a better fit with Fields.
But so it
sounds like Getsy kind of did a pretty good job with Fields.
If you believe that, I personally don't. I think
he looked a lot better. Come on, they were a laughing stock, and then they turned it around. You got to give them some credit, don't you?
I do not think Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback, but it sure sounds like they are going to keep him. And I will say, you're going to get a bunch of draft picks for him. Wait, not Fields, for the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, they're going to keep him but get draft picks for him? No, what are you talking about?
They're going to keep Fields, move the pick. I would assume, unless you're just going to be an idiot and draft Marvin Harrison, number 1 overall, move the pick.
Why not Caleb Williams?
That's like, you just move down. You only have to probably move down 3 or 4 spots. You're going to get probably 3 picks for that. Surround Fields with better talent.
Oregon's season opener against Hawaii has been rescheduled. Ducks will not play the 13-game schedule. The side say they are looking for a new date. This became a thing when the Ducks found room for Oregon State in the non-con.
Yeah.
Now, USC needs a quarterback. They have to replace Caleb Williams. Today, they get UNLV transfer Jaden Maeva. His dad said he was headed to Georgia. But not so fast.
Not so fast, my friend.
That's a big get for USC because they really had no quarterback. The top kid in the 2023 class, Malachi Nelson, actually left USC.
Yeah.
He transferred to Boise State recently.
It's very strange. You would think, like, one of the top players in the country, and the best he can do is Boise State?
Well, not only that, but
seems a little odd.
Then USC's guy is the UNLV kid, and they played Kansas in the bowl game, so I watched him.
You give it 2 thumbs.
Eric Spoelstra gets an 8-year, $120 million extension to coach the Miami Heat some more. That is the most committed money to a coach in North American sports history.
Boy.
Greg Popovich remains the highest paid coach per season at $19 million a year, but the length of this deal, coupled with $15 million per, that is record-setting. Of course, Spoelstra, 2 titles and 6 finals appearances in Miami. And the Clippers have locked up Kawhi Leonard for 3 more years. He only gets $152 million. The Clippers are currently 4th in the West.
They're going to try to force him to play 32 games a year. Has anyone gotten less for their investment than when the Clippers spent all that money to bring in those guys?
I think it's off the top of my head, but I think he's been with the Clippers 3 seasons. Yeah. He's played 57, 50, and 50 games. It's better than you think.
It's better than you think.
But he rests a lot.
Yes. And it's brought them no success.
I can't believe this is number 2, guys, but it is. Pete Carroll is out as coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Jody Allen issuing a statement saying his role will evolve from head coach to advisor. 14 seasons, his record 137 wins, 89 losses. The playoff record was just 5-7 since the Super Bowl title. Yeah. And, of course, he missed the playoffs in 2 of the last 3 years, and that was enough.
Sounds like that they were ready to elevate Schneider. Pete Carroll always had final say, even though Schneider was the GM. And they talked about losing their edge and that they were no longer, contenders and that it wasn't good enough. So it sounds like they're just looking to move in a new direction. And Pete Carroll, going to be 73 years old when the football season starts, wasn't part of the long-term future. And there's just a lot of scuttlebutt that Dan Quinn is going to be the next coach, and he wasn't going to be available in a year to go out and get. So just a lot of timing of this kind of makes sense. And there was a lot of love at that press conference between Pete, the Seahawks, Schneider, all of that, even though this was essentially a force down.
Yeah, Pete stuck his tongue down Jody's throat. Couldn't believe that part of it.
Number 1.
Sure, she loved it.
Navy SEAL style. He was wearing a Speedo at the time.
And number 1, Nick Saban has retired as head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Not many people stepping down could trump Pete Carroll, who's one of the truly great football coaches of all time, but the greatest college coach to ever do it, I would say that bumps him.
The other bit of news here, before we get back to Saban, is that Dan Lanning appears to be at the top of Alabama's wish list.
Yeah, Brett McMurphy, soon after Chris Lowe of ESPN had the news that Saban was telling his team that he was stepping down, McMurphy came right over the top saying that Dan Lanning is the number 1 candidate. There were others out there, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Mike Norvell, think of all those standard names, but he did say that Lanning is at the top of the list.
Savesy, get this, his record at Alabama, he'd been there since 2007, and in 2007, they went 2-6.
Yeah.
I assume that means he took over as an interim or something, only coaching 8 games, but whatever. The very next season, they went 12-2. His record at Alabama, 201-29.
Yeah, that's pretty good. This was the first time that he had gone more than 3 years without winning a national championship.
Yeah, big drought.
Yeah,
time to move him out.
Yeah, time to
get some young blood in there.
Well, I mean, just in general,
6 titles.
6 at Alabama, 7 total.
Yeah, 1 at LSU.
1 at LSU.
All right. Well, we'll get to his legacy. That's your Hot 5 at 5. It's brought to you as a sponsor. It's brought to you by Victoricos Mexican Food, the most popular burrito spot in Oregon. Order now at victoricos.com. Saban, Carroll Talk, next on The Fan.
Yeah. The home of Dirt and Spray.
I'm Dirt. I'm very hopeful, and yet at the same way, I'm kind of realistic. You're losing so much. And to assume it's just going to keep functioning the same way, I don't know if that's going to be an 11-1 team with a less than schedule. I'm not convinced of that. So I didn't expect a lot in the bowl game. I'm also keeping my eye on what's going on down there.
Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on 1080 The Fan.
Now, here's a quick look at Portland traffic.
Got some really heavy delays if you're going eastbound Sunset Highway, beginning around the zoo, heading to the Interstate Bridge into Vancouver. It's going to be about a 25-minute drive with 15-minute delays. Also 15-minute delays if you're heading to Interstate 205. I'm Ken Luttrell with traffic.
Victorino's features fresh, authentic Mexican food made from scratch. Hey, it's Dusty, and that's just one reason why Victorino's is my family's go-to when we need a quick and delicious meal. From tacos and burritos to quesadillas and tortas, there's truly something for everyone. Order your favorites now at victoricos.com.
Here's to everyone who was
Quick reminder of what Dan Lanning said after the Texas A&M job opened up, and he was going through extension negotiations and that whole thing back then.
You got $20 million? I mean, look, I don't mind, we talk about when you cook breakfast, right? The chicken, right? You pop out an egg, he's committed. But the pig, he's all in, right? That bacon, it takes a little bit more. Coaches, so often it's not fair in college football, in my opinion, when a university makes a commitment to a coach, but a coach doesn't make a commitment to that university. I want to be here, right? And believe or not believe, whatever you want. I mean, there's no secret that this is what I want. I've said before, the grass isn't always greener. I have everything I want here.
When he mentions $20 million, he's talking about his new buyout.
Yeah, which of the coaches that are being thrown out there, from James Franklin to Norvell to DeBoer, Lanning's is by far the biggest at $20 million. But, as with any of these guys, it's tough to pull out an entrenched coach, because that's what schools are doing now is, you're having to pay a guy $7 to $12 million a year. You're trying to get some guarantees that he's not going to go anywhere. But that's the thing, a school like Alabama, and remember, Texas A&M just gave Jimbo Fisher, $80-something million to go away. For a school like Alabama, if they want you and you have interest, the $20 million isn't going to stop you. It just comes down to, does Dan Lanning entertain the Alabama offer, or is what he said about the Texas A&M job there, does that apply to Bama as well? And no one knows.
You think Jimbo's on campus in Tuscaloosa right now?
I think he might be the one guy who's not.
Well, I tell you what, there is a thought that when Lanning was talking so confidently about staying at Oregon that he knew that the Alabama job was going to be open. Yeah. He knew that. Yeah. I can't imagine Nick Saban just sprung this on Alabama, and perhaps they knew that he was gone long before we did, which we only all found out today. But if they have already done some sniffing around other coaches, perhaps when Lanning was saying all that stuff, he was also saying, not only am I not going to Texas A&M, I'm not going to Alabama.
Well, we know that every athletic director has a list. Hey, breaking case of emergency. And, you know, at 72 years old, whether or not they knew that Saban was stepping down for certain, they had to know that it was coming sooner than later. And guaranteed that what, you know, and Greg Byrne, who's their AD, is one of the better ones in the business. And he came out and released a statement and said that, you know, kind of what they're looking for. And he said, the next time you hear from me will be to announce our head coach. If it doesn't come from me, don't believe it. And he's got his list, and they'll go through. And I promise you that Dan Lanning is indeed on that list. That didn't come from nowhere.
Rich Rod.
Brett McMurphy and several others. I mean, I've seen at least a dozen, from Dennis Dodd to Brett McMurphy, that have all said that Lanning is the top candidate for them. Doesn't mean that he'll take it, but certainly when you have that release that you're the top candidate, Alabama is talking to his agent right now and seeing if there is anything to that.
Well, I don't know why they wouldn't want him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Well, I will say, though, to be fair to all involved, you know, if we're going to talk the list that you're hearing, Sark, Kiffin, Dabo, James Franklin, DeBoer, and...
What about Urban Meyer?
Lanning. I haven't heard anything about Urban, so... Yeah. Wouldn't that be something?
That would.
A couple national titles at Florida, national title at Ohio State, national. I tell you what, if someone's going to win there, I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't count out Urban Meyer, but something tells me no. But of those guys that we just threw out there that seem to be the main names. And this is going to sound weird because they said Lanning is the number one candidate. Lanning has by far the worst resume of any of those.
Yeah, but there's a reason.
There's a reason why.
You know why.
Well, and he said in his statement that he wants I'll pull it up, the statement from the Alabama AD. He first and foremost said young and energetic. Young, energetic, and recruiting was the very first thing.
We're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins.
Yeah, this is Greg Byrne. He said, as with our coaching search, our goal is to be thorough but expedient. Our ideal candidate will be strong in recruiting, relationship building, player development, excel in X's and O's, and have the overall ability to lead this historic program. Plenty of rumors out there. Blah, blah, blah.
Might as well say you're going after Dan Lanning and only Dan Lanning.
Well, it's weird because I know for Washington fan, like the DeBoer thing is scary, right? Because DeBoer doesn't have he doesn't have the big contract extension. He hadn't been paid like the others, and so that was the other one too. Is like he loses to Michigan. Does Michigan come calling? Because Harbaugh, is going to be gone. And the one thing I'll say about DeBoer, like you can't question his resume. The guy's won at every level, and he just keeps winning. He takes over a program that went 4-8, and 2 years later they've beaten Dan Lanning 3 times, and they've gone and played for a national title. But I think the thing that will scare off a program like Alabama is I don't care how good of a coach you are. You saw it in the national title game. In order to be Bama or Georgia, you have to be a dog when it comes to recruiting. You just have to be, and that's the one thing that we don't know about a guy like DeBoer is, can he recruit at a level that Alabama is going to be satisfied with? And if you're Bama, are you willing to roll the dice on someone that hasn't really proven to be a big recruiter? My guess to that is no. So if you're like, which fan base to me would feel more secure? I'd feel more secure if I'm UW with DeBoer than I would if I'm Morgan and Dan Lanning.
I think there's a good chance Lanning stays here.
I think so too.
A couple of reasons. One, I think he's the type of guy that when he says things like we just played,
I think he means it.
He means it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's one of these full of crap coaches. Two, I think there's a good chance that Phil Knight and Rob Mullins and all these guys behind the scenes,
put more money.
They have already addressed this as best they can. Yeah. Look, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but you have done everything you can to get out ahead of this. $20 million buyout is enormous.
And shown him a commitment and getting into the Big Ten and with top 7 recruiting classes.
Yeah, I think if they're still in the Pac-12, this may be a different conversation, but moving to the Big Ten.
Place to the table.
And, the SEC is a meat grinder. He knows that. And I think he's smart enough to understand you don't want to follow a legend, man. No. The next guy there.
I don't want that job.
You win a title, they're going to be like, okay, well, win another one and then win another one.
Dave Bartu, who, is obviously involved in coaching decisions around the country. He texted me at the beginning of our show and said, worst effing job in 20 years to open up. He goes, you want that job? And I'd say this for look, if you're the coach at, I don't know, Iowa State or something. Yeah. But if you're a coach at Oregon, if you're a coach at UW, you're a coach at Mike Norvell at Florida State, do you really want to step into literally the biggest shoes in the history of college football are the ones following Nick Saban? Dude, that takes absolute balls of steel. And it's one thing if you're making $3 million and Alabama's offering you 12. First off, they're not going to offer you $12 million. So if you're making 7 or 8 someplace, let's say Bama comes in and offers you 9, 10, is that money worth having to come in and fill that gap? By the way, several players, including Alabama's top recruit, 5-star receiver, have already said that their recruitment is open. And I would also like to point out, as great as the Alabama job is, and no one is arguing that right now that's the best job in America, but it's the best job in America because of Nick Saban. They have everything you need to win, but so does LSU, so does Florida State, so does Ohio State. All of those schools have everything you need to win. And before Nick Saban got there, realized at one point they hired Mike Price. They hired Mike DeBose. They hired Mike Shula. A lot of Mikes they liked. Dennis Francione. Like, there was a 20-year period there where Alabama football wasn't Alabama. It was just another program that was like, hey, they have a lot of resources to win, but they weren't winning. So I asked the question, is Bama truly this job that anyone that goes there wins, or was it a great job, a great structure that Nick Saban turned into something special? If Nick Saban stayed at LSU, are we now saying that LSU is the greatest job in the country? I think we are. It's just that Nick elevated the Bama program.
It's also possible that if Nick Saban went somewhere other than Alabama after LSU in the NFL, that we would be saying that's the best job because he's that good.
Yes.
In other words, I think he could have won a lot of titles or multiple titles at a lot of stops.
Yes.
Not just Alabama.
When Urban was at Florida, we said the same thing. People were saying that the Florida job is the best job in America. Yep. And then Urban left, and now everyone's like, I don't know, man. Right. Florida's a little...
That's a good example. I think that's right.
Yeah, it's Herb. Herb made Florida, and just like Saban made...
Still a good program.
Yeah.
But best? I don't know. And so I think the Alabama job is better in 5 years when the next guy flames out because he wins 10 games every year, not 12. And then they're like, well, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. Hire the next guy. Pay him double. Because they're going to be gripping in 5 years. Because this guy's right. Text line, Vancouver Ford text line. Alabama fans have to be gripping. There is nowhere to go but down.
Yes.
They're awesome.
Yes.
Every year.
And nothing lasts forever.
No, it just doesn't.
It's cyclical. You can't stay on top forever.
And you think that, you make the right hire, they just keep that going at Nick Saban's pace. I think what you're saying, and I agree, no, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. Nick Saban is one of one. Although Kirby Smart's kind of done that at Georgia.
Well, but
it took him some time.
It took him some time, but Mark Richt didn't, he didn't have that thing going like Kirby did. Kirby took Georgia and has elevated that, and we'll see if it. But Dabo had it at Clemson, and now he's fallen off a bit. We'll see if he can bring it back up. No one has kept in modern college football. No one has been able to keep this up the way Nick Saban has. And I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. When's the last time? Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze here.
Well, look at Ryan Day. I'll let you sneeze. Yeah. Look at Ryan Day at Ohio State. Great program. Maybe one of the top, probably the top, if not top two, with Texas in the country.
Yeah.
And he's getting raked over the coals. The guy's lost like maybe 3 or 4 games tops, but he's not winning titles.
and people are like, get your ass out of here.
Yeah.
Because Tressel and then obviously into Herbs and all that, there was an expectation. But I'm trying to think of...
But that's the same thing in Alabama.
Yeah. Find me... The program that won at the level, no one won at the level of Bama, but let's say you were one of the 3 or 4 truly best programs in the country for an extended period of time. So Nebraska, Miami. When's the last time? Do you have to go back to Miami from with Jimmy into Dennis? That there was an extended period where you went from the legend to the next guy and it was either maintained or risen. It's really, really hard to do.
Yeah, because the legends are legends.
Yes.
Not everybody's.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, I don't know. Yeah. It's like you can't, like Pete Carroll. Well, I guess that one's different because of sanctions and everything.
Still fell.
At USC.
Still fell.
Well, of course it fell, but the sanction thing, I mean, that really hurt them. Like, Kiffin was behind the 8 ball in trying. He was next, right? Or was it Sark?
No.
I think it was Kiffin. I thought it was Kiffin.
Yeah, I think it was.
Kiffin followed Carroll?
I think Kiffin followed Carroll.
By the way, you want to talk about a guy?
Yeah, he did. Kiffin followed.
Yeah, because he had the sanctions and everything.
Yeah.
Do you want to, you want to talk about a guy who would embrace following the legend at Alabama? It's freaking Lane Kiffin. I don't think he cares at all. That guy has never met a job he didn't like. No. And I guarantee you they're talking to him. If they're talking to him, he's going, oh my God, I can go one state over and have that kind of budget.
Let's go.
I don't care. Let's go. I'll win more games there than Ole Miss.
He just said Roll Tide on ESPN when they were leading up to the CFP stuff. It was funny. God, they kind of put him in like, who you want to win? He kind of smiles. Roll Tide. He's into it.
I love Lane Kiffin. I'm just saying it's traditionally
it doesn't happen.
Traditionally following things like this.
Well, like Coker at Miami, and then it just fell off a cliff, right?
And this is he pulled the Helfrich where. Look, there was success for a year or two, and it sure as hell wasn't because of Larry Coker. During the ESPN 30 for 30, even the Miami players say the only reason they wanted Larry Coker to be their coach is because they knew they could boss him around. They went to the AD and when they're like, don't you dare bring in a coach that's going to try to change what we're doing here. Just give me the figurehead guy, tell him to shut up, and we're going to go win a national title. And once those players left, then it all crumbled. It's just, it's really hard to maintain a dynasty, especially the greatest dynasty in college football history.
I have the odds here from Jimmy Shapiro, the latest odds, hot off the presses, next Alabama head coach. Dan Lanning, 3-1. He is the favorite.
He is the fave, huh?
Dabo Sweeney, 4-1. Lane Kiffin, 5-1.
See, if you would have gone back 3 years, Dabo
Sweeney.
was the slam dunk, and he was always viewed as the coach in waiting, but...
Because he went there, right? Or
he played.
He played there?
He played, and then I think he was like a GA there. So, he was always viewed as the successor to Saban, but this goes to show you, a couple years not winning national titles, and Alabama's like, well, we don't want Dabo.
Yeah.
What have you done? Oh, 2 national titles, including beating Alabama. Not good enough.
So Lane is 5-1. Deion Sanders and Kalen DeBoer, 6-1.
God's sake. Deion Sanders.
No. How about this? Pat Shurmur, 9-1. Urban Meyer, 10-1. Norvell way down there at 16-1. That's not a bad bet.
I don't get why Norvell isn't higher on their list. But I will say the most entertaining.
Well, he might be. This is just the odds.
Yeah, just the odds. The greatest hire.
Sark, 35-1.
Really?
Cristobal, 50-1.
Mario Cristobal.
Well, yeah,
I dare you to hire him.
Alabama offensive line coach. So yeah, he could sit there.
The greatest thing that we could ever have for what we do is one man and one man only, Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Urban going to Alabama
would be awesome.
Would be just the media in general, the public, our heads would just explode.
What about Pete Carroll?
Now, is this Vegas odds or is this like just insiders?
Yeah,
this is from it's not Vegas, it's betonline.ag.
He's the gambling guy that always sends out all these emails.
You know, it sucks because like I hear what you're saying, Rob, with this stuff about the rumblings kind of already being taken care of with Dan Lanning, you know, the whole contract negotiations. This was kind of to head this off, but 3-1. And I would assume somebody has some inside info here. Like that's making me nervous.
I don't think they have info. I think they're just saying they just know that. It's obvious that Dan Lanning would be one of their top targets. You got to hedge that.
The AD statement, like you said, it's like
he basically names Dan Lanning.
Names Dan Lanning. So
that's why the odds are so high. There's no inside info. Okay,
well, it's also remember when they make these lines, you take them with a grain of salt because they're making them based on how people are going to bet.
Yes.
So they know people are going to bet on Lanning, so they make that a shorter bet.
Well, and again, because Alabama wants Dan Lanning doesn't mean that they're going to get Dan Lanning.
You got $20 million?
Yeah. Actually,
you got $20 million?
Actually, Alabama does.
They do.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn, by the way, next Seahawks head coach, odds on favorite, Dan Quinn, 1-1, even Quinn. Money.
I'm going to guess, and this is just that it's already been
Quinn. Yeah,
it's Quinn.
Yeah, but they won't say anything until after the Cowboys are out of the playoffs.
Yes,
because Quinn wants to focus on the playoffs.
Yes, but I believe that part of the reason that they shoved Pete Carroll out was that Dan Quinn was going to get a job this offseason, and they want Dan Quinn to be the head coach going forward, whether that was a year from now, and they went to Pete and said, hey, man, you've taken us as far as we can. It's time for a change. Schneider's being elevated. Dan Quinn's going to be our guy. We got to move now, and Pete graciously stepped aside. But Dan Quinn will be the next head coach in Seattle.
And I think that's a really good hire.
Absolutely.
By them. All right. What else was I going to tell you? Oh, Vrabel was next on that list at 4-1.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be a bad. I mean, he's sitting out there. That's interesting. But with Quinn's history of in Seattle,
yep.
And, just them kind of apparently lamenting the fact that their defense never really got back to Dan Quinn levels, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
All right, the longest tenured coaches and more on Nick Saban's legacy when we get back. Here is Jordan with Schultz Center.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, some huge news dropping in college football today. Alabama head coach Nick Saban announcing his retirement after 17 seasons with the program, including 6 national championships in a 12-year span. Action Network's Brett McMurphy reporting that Oregon coach Dan Lanning is expected to be their top choice to replace Saban. And more shocking news, this time out of the NFL earlier, is Seahawks owner Jody Allen announcing the team has decided to remove head coach Pete Carroll and transition him into an advisory role. After being hired in 2010, the 72-year-old Carroll finishes up his tenure as the winningest coach in Seahawks history, along with 10 playoff appearances and 1 Super Bowl win. Elsewhere in the NFL, the Chicago Bears decided to keep head coach Matt Eberflus, but they are firing offensive coordinator Luke Getsky after going 7-10 this year. Some good news for the Cleveland Browns, though. They get receiver Amari Cooper back for their wild card matchup against the Texans. He had just missed the last 2 games with a heel injury. And in the association, the Los Angeles Clippers signing forward Kawhi Leonard to a 3-year, $153 million extension. He's averaging almost 24 points a game this year. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Go deeper on the Trailblazers. The Rose Garden Report with host Sean Hyken. Download the Rose Garden Report on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. It's time for Who's Leading the Charge. A look under the hood at the coaches, players, and teams getting it done. Brought to you by Battery Exchange.
Hart galloping into the front court. Leads it Randall. Hard drive. And the runner goes down.
Watch, this is a very difficult shot coming up, running and stunning the Blazers. And another 3-point opportunity for the Knicks.
That was from last night. The Blazers had a little momentum after their big overtime win in Brooklyn. Unfortunately, they had a night off in New York, and we know when you have nights off in New York, that usually doesn't lead to a lot of success on the court, and 112-84. And believe it or not, that's not as bad as it got. That was with a rousing comeback from the Blazers in the fourth quarter. That's what we call an ass kicking, and this is what we call the Battery Exchange Who's Leading the Charge report. System checks at 14 area locations, Battery Exchange with an X.com.
Hello, Oregon homeowners. If you're in need of drain clearing, now is a great time to have my friends at 3 Mountains Plumbing do it for you. And right now, they got a great deal. You can call and schedule a consultation for just $30. Wow, just $30.
how many people know this? Because I think Lanning gets linked a lot with Georgia, obviously being the defense coordinator there and winning a championship there with Kirby Smart. But Lanning was at Alabama. I don't know how many people don't know that, but he was a grad assistant there in 2015 and won a title with Nick Saban. So.
He does have an Alabama A tattooed on his body. Yeah. That's part, but the Oregon O is the larger tattoo on his body. So, you know.
So now he's going to have to get a bigger A.
Yeah, if that happens and you leave to the Alabama, do you have to then go and redo it?
Look, man, I think there's a good chance they keep Lanning. I really do. I mean that.
Yeah.
But if he were to go, should we start the exercise of who would be Oregon's next coach?
Just go get DeBoer.
DeBoer?
Boy, that would Smith.
You can't beat him. Join him.
Jonathan Smith? What?
At this point, hey, you're talking like hit the panic button. Worst case scenario. I don't even want to think about that.
Pete Carroll.
I don't know. I don't think Duck fan even wants to.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Yeah, people are already nervous enough.
I know. Let's not go there.
I never say never, and Alabama is a very unique job, and there's enough smoke out there with people saying Lanning is their first choice. I tend to believe that. I'd still go 65, 70%. I think that he stays. I think when he says, I mean, he is adamant and said that this is, what he wants to be his last job. I think he understands that the grass isn't greener. I think when he referenced both Taggart and Cristobal leaving, I think he believes that he has what he needs here to win. I think if this was still the Pac-12, I think that hurts them a little bit, but going to the Big Ten, and Lanning seems the sort of type that the commitment thing, I think he would be embarrassed to turn around and leave after saying that about A&M. And I know coaches do it all the time. And look, I'm not going to be surprised if he takes it, but I'm 65-70. I would say I think Lanning stays.
Vancouver Ford text line, someone asks, riddle me this regarding Lanning. How many days does it take until we get concerned if we don't hear from Lanning himself?
Well, the only thing I'll say about that is, like,
it's a good question.
Why would you hear from Lanning right now? Like, there's no...
Well, kind of like when we had to hear from him after when the A&M stuff.
Yeah, but I
want to hear from him.
But that was in season.
Yeah.
There were regular press conferences. What I would say is that if Lanning pops up at something, like let's say this happened before the national title game, okay? And Lanning's on the ESPN coverage, and Lanning did I'm not here to distract, anything like that, then to be worried. But
what are they doing right now?
I mean, Dan was just in Houston. I don't know.
I don't think they're doing much of anything.
Are they recruiting, or is this the time when they can just kind of get away?
They've got visits planned this month. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, but you're not in front of any cameras or anything particular. There's no coaches show going on. So, look, if you don't hear from him for a week or so, I wouldn't think too much of it. I'd also be interested to see, like, as this thing rolls on, there will be leaks. And even though, the AD said from Alabama, like, the next time you hear from me will be to announce our head coach. And so if it doesn't come from me, don't believe it. There'll be rumors and there'll be stuff out there. And it'll be interesting to see in 3-4 days if the Lanning thing keeps gaining ground and gaining steam, or if it dies down a little bit. So I think you're going to be able to keep an eye on this, but I wouldn't panic if a week goes by and you don't hear anything from Dan Lanning.
All right. Longest tenured coaches in college football. Saban was 4th.
Saban was 4, huh?
Yeah.
Well, he was there for what, 16, 17 years?
He started in 06?
I think it was 16 or 17, if I remember correctly.
He started in 06.
Yeah. What is Ferentz?
Kirk Ferentz, number 1.
Ferentz got to be up there. Who else has been around forever? Who's an old fuddy-duddy sticking around?
Whittingham? Is he on that list?
Kyle Whittingham, yeah. He is 3rd. And interestingly enough, he replaced Urban Meyer.
Oh.
And he's still there.
Herbs was there for a long-ass time.
He was?
No. Sorry. Herbs never stayed any place for... That's like, flip that. Herb was kind of a bit of a jumper.
I thought he was at Utah for like 3 years, 2 years?
Yeah, he was only at Utah for a little bit, and then he was at Florida for a little bit, and then Ohio State. He's a transient guy a little bit. And then Jacksonville for a few. He never planted his heels in any place for a significant period of time. So you got Whittingham.
So he's at Bowling Green for 2, Utah for 2, Florida for 6, Ohio State for 8.
Oh, okay.
7.
I was going to say, I don't remember it being that long, but yeah, I mean, 6-7 year run.
Once he got to the better places, he stayed there longer. It's obvious.
So
you know the other one?
I don't know the other one off the top of my head.
Are you giving up?
Well, I'm just trying to think.
What a surrender.
Well, I mean, are we going to sit here for like 30 seconds to a minute while I'm like, who else is around? I don't know.
Yeah, that builds suspense.
Is it a big name coach or is it someone that's just a mid-level guy?
The second longest tenured coach in college football right now is...
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Of course.
I'm 40.
Oh, for God's sakes. There you go.
I'm 50.
The next coach at Alabama, go get Mike Gundy.
I don't know. He's a good coach, but...
Go give me some Gundy.
He'd be down on my list. Longest tenured NFL coaches, do you know that? Carroll was not... Yeah, he was fourth as well, actually.
Yeah, Tomlin, Belichick.
Tomlin's 2, Belichick's number 1. You know who third?
Pete, and number 3 would be... who's 3? Searching.
Oh, tad surprising, but not really. Because NFL coaches always turnover.
Searching the memory banks. I could see them winning this game. I could see them losing this game.
Oh.
I got nothing.
Who's been there a long ass time?
John Harbaugh.
For Pete's sakes.
You idiots.
I didn't get Harbaugh.
I could see them winning this game. I could see them losing this game.
One of the cool things I saw, too, about Saban was, they paid him like $170 million over his time there. And the Alabama chancellor said it was the greatest investment of all time. Because not only did Saban, Saban's whole career, right? 17 seasons, 206 career wins, 11 SEC titles, 124 NFL draft picks, 7 national titles, right? 5 SEC coaches of the year. That's ridiculous. But maybe the biggest thing that no one gives Nick Saban credit for, they said that when Saban came to Alabama, the enrollment was around 22,000. It is now 40,000.
Wow.
They also say that 60% of the enrollment before he got there was from people in-state Alabama, and in-state tuition is about $11,000 a year. It is now flipped. It is over 60% out-of-state tuition, and they pay over $35,000 a year. That Nick Saban has meant billions to that school, and they call it the Doug Flutie effect. When Doug Flutie had the Hail Mary at Boston College, their enrollment exploded, and they credit the growth of the school to Nick Saban. And that's why they say it is the greatest investment that a university has ever made was bringing Nick Saban to Alabama and what he's meant.
I think his greatest, legacy bullet point is, it's just amazing to me that every single year he would lose coaches. Mm-hmm. His coaching staff would get rated.
Yep.
And he was awesome.
It just worked.
No matter what.
Nope.
It's crazy.
And that's
because
normally,
that does not happen.
No, it cripples programs.
Yeah, it's just you talk about, how Oregon's built what they built for a long time. It was continuity, right? Mm-hmm. At Clemson, certainly the Dabo staff stayed together for the longest time, which they talk about was big in helping them get where they
broke apart. And look at them.
It's nuts. Every year, Saban would lose his top assistants and just kept dominating.
Yes, he is truly one of one and is just unique in that way. He's the best ever. There is no argument. No offense to Bear Bryant, but Bear did it at a time that you can't even compare. It's like Bill Russell winning the 11 championships, but there was 12 teams in the league. Yeah, I'm not trying to take away from his championships, but Jordan winning 6 when he did is a hell of a lot harder to win when Jordan was doing it. And it's the same thing with Nick. This is just it's a tougher environment, and continue to win. He evolved. Remember when the game had passed him by because of the no huddle offenses, and you couldn't do 3 yards in a cloud of dust and win with crappy quarterbacks. It's okay. Saban adjusted. NIL adjusted. No matter what they threw at him, he just continued to evolve. And he wasn't one of those guys, Dabo, that stuck his head in the ground and said that I'm not, it's my way or the highway. He was the ultimate adapter.
Do you want the latest Colin Cowherd tweet?
Oh, what do we got from the herd?
2 sources confirmed to me late this afternoon that Bama Athletic Director Greg Byrne, knowing that Nick Saban retiring was always a possibility, has had his eye on Kalen DeBoer for some time.
There you go.
Byrne is highly respected.
Yeah.
And Byrne, remember, he has Washington ties, doesn't he?
He has...
Oh, no, I'm thinking of the other guy. I'm thinking of the LSU guy.
Byrne has
he was at Arizona for a while.
Yeah, he has Pac-12 ties, but I didn't think it was Washington.
No, I'm thinking of Woodward.
Interesting. Well, we did say that the two names that could be on the list were that.
If I tell you what, if Kalen DeBoer is Alabama's hire, that is a great hire.
Yes.
That guy is a damn good coach. And I know that everybody brings up the recruiting stuff. He's not recruiting at the high, because the big knock on him is Lanning's out recruiting him. Okay, so Lanning's eventually going to get him. Well, when he goes to Alabama and he's got freaking offensive linemen growing on trees in his own backyard, I bet you he recruits better. Dude, that would be a great hire. That you want to talk about not outthinking the room.
Yeah.
Just hire Kalen DeBoer. He doesn't have a contract. He has a $12 million buyout. Or I mean, he has a contract, but he's gettable because they haven't locked him up yet. $12 million buyout. He just played in the championship game. He is clearly an excellent football coach. Don't outthink the room. Hire Kalen DeBoer. There you go.
Makes total sense. The only thing is the recruiting.
But they won't.
Thing. It's the only thing. Is I'm just not certain that Bama is willing to put it in the hands of anyone that isn't an ultimate recruiter, because I think and this is true about, Lanning and what he's doing there. Anyone that's been in those programs, Bama, Georgia, you can say all you want that coaches make a difference, and they do. Clearly, DeBoer is a phenomenal coach and wins wherever he goes. If you don't have the horses and you don't have the ability to go in and continue, especially in this era of NIL, transfer portal, recruiting your own guys day in and day out, if you don't have the ability to bring in top-level talent consistently, you're just not going to win consistently in that league. And now in a 12-team playoff. And I'd be interested to see if they'd be willing to roll the dice that DeBoer could get it cranked up at a place like Bama.
All right, we wrap up Pete Carroll's tenure in Seattle next on The Fan.
It's time for a Ducks Report, the inside story on Oregon athletics. Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
The Ducks are getting a visit from another 4-star quarterback recruit later this month. His name is Brady Schmeigel. Smigel?
Robert Smigel of SNL fame is coming to Oregon? How many quarterbacks do they need?
His name's Brady. Can he be bad?
They got too many quarterbacks as it is. All right, bring this kid on down.
Mods PDX, the future of building is here.
It's the Vancouver Ford text line.
Plenty of time to talk sports today.
One number does it all. 503-8646-FAN. 1080 The Fan.
All right, Pete out in Seattle. I was just thinking, Jody Allen, she now has the trifecta on her resume. She just keeps racking them up. She traded Russell Wilson. She traded Damian Lillard. And now she's fired Pete Carroll.
Not too shabby.
Thanks a lot, Jode.
Even though she technically doesn't own the teams, the trust.
Oh, she's loving all the control, though. God, get the hell out.
I mean, think about that. Those are three legends, man.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all were wrong decisions. As a matter of fact, you could argue all three were the right decisions. It's just, it's kind of wild.
That Blazer decision looks a little rough right about now. Go back. Hey, remember when they told us that Scoot wouldn't miss a beat? Oh, no growth curve here. Step right into Dame's shoes. Whoops.
Well, anyway, Pete was great.
Pete was great, and it's a shame that Pete didn't get more of a day because he got trumped obviously by old Nicky there. But if you're going
here
down,
he did, but not in Seattle.
Yeah, if you're going down the list, although with the DeBoer thing, Seattle sports right now is like, what the hell? I mean, seriously, like obviously Oregon fan is a little spooked with the Lanning stuff, but I don't know how plugged in Colin is to Alabama football, but obviously he's a big national guy. He hears things. And if you're UW, I do know one of my, obviously my dearest friends is a diehard Husky, and he has always been worried that DeBoer will leave to go somewhere else. They were worried about Michigan, for God's sakes. They lose to Michigan in the national title and the DeBoer. And so
that would be an interesting hire for Michigan.
And they've been working behind the scenes to try to make sure that he's, fairly compensated and he gets the big fat contract. But, every day that it isn't signed, I'm sure UW fan is a little nervous. And if I was one of those two fans, which one would I be more nervous? I'd be more nervous if I was a Husky fan.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
About DeBoer leaving than Lanning?
I'd be more concerned about DeBoer leaving than Lanning. Mm. And by the way, if you're an Alabama fan, outside of the recruiting thing, which again I think is kind of a scary thing with DeBoer's resume is actually better than Dan Lanning's. No offense, but Lanning's been a head coach before.
No, what's the head-to-head? Oh.
Yeah. They've both been there for 2 years. He's never lost to him with lesser talent, and he's won national titles at low levels. He's been a winner wherever he goes. Like Lanning, of all the coaches that's names are being thrown out there, Lanning has the worst resume of any of them.
I mean, could you? I don't know. Could you really say, isn't it wild to think that we could be saying within the next couple of weeks that the Oregon and Washington head coaches turned down the Alabama job?
Be crazy.
Think about that.
Be absolutely crazy. It'd also be crazy to go back 2 years ago and tell DeBoer, who had just taken the job at Fresno State, had been there 2 years. By the way, 3 years from now, you will have played for a national championship and will be hired as the next coach at Alabama. You're like, what? Huh? I remember asking Chip Kelly that, like when Chip was going to that Rose Bowl, I'm like, dude, 4 years ago, you were coaching at New Hampshire. Like, you can't possibly have seen that. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a little weird.
Oh, will you shut up?
That's a pinch yourself sort of moment. At least Lanning was, going through big time programs. He'd kind of worked his way up and was a guy at Georgia, and that kind of makes sense. But from Fresno to UW, and then if he ends up at Bama, that is a rise that you just don't see that often in the world of college football. Although Herbs, I guess you could say the same thing, right? Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, couple national titles.
Poll question: is Jody Allen the biggest genetic lottery winner? Says somebody on the text line there.
There's
got to be better than that.
Well, because again, she doesn't get his money; she's going to get a portion of the sales.
Come on, her life.
It's fine.
It's been very cushy for a long time.
Yeah.
No, one of those little royal brats.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true. Like Prince George, the son of Prince William, who will eventually be the king. I think he's probably got the cushiest of them all.
It's the amount of money that those douche canoes set to
a lot.
Are set to inherit.
I don't even think they know their wealth. They're so rich.
Yeah.
Right? They can't even.
They've got like houses and jewels and all kinds of different like odd marketable securities, to quote Home Alone. So yeah.
My favorite part about the royal family is like all of their jewels and all that stuff is stolen, and we know who it was stolen from. And those countries are like, we want it back. And they're like, no. Like they have like the crown jewels of all.
Give it back?
No, but it is interesting that it's not like land in a country. Like I get it. We're not giving Phoenix back to the Mexicans. Like we understand that. Like it's not happening.
Why not? Phoenix sucks.
But they have, like, in their museum, like in Buckingham Palace, like they have.
Just kidding. I like Phoenix.
Yeah, they have the crown jewels of like all these other countries that are still countries, and it's not that like, yeah, we know when you went down there and took them. It's like with the whole like the World War II art, like we had to, like, people had to give that stuff back, and they went to the Brits and were like, yeah, we would like our stuff back, and they're like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that.
Why would we do that?
We feel bad about the whole, genocide and
finders keepers,
colonialism and all that. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and hold on to these. So yeah, genetic lottery, those brats. You get born into that family, or maybe one of the Saudi princes.
Does Bezos have kids?
No.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does he?
Mackenzie Scott and him?
I don't think they had a kid.
Musk has like 10.
Yeah, but I would. Yeah. That's not. I mean, that's certainly winning the genetic lottery, but it's kind of.
I'm going one of those Saudi bros.
Yeah.
Like your dad's the sultan of whatever. Like.
Yeah, you just come out of the womb and you get to kill people.
Yeah. Like how long before you can make sort of those types of decisions? Like if you're 8 and you don't like your butler, can you go to your dad and be like, yeah, we want this. Like,
off with his head.
I don't know how that works. Is that like a Joffrey sort of Game of Thrones thing? But like that has to be the winner.
Right. We are done here. F off.
Sorry.
We are going to move on to the club. When you get rich, you also get bored. This is the UFO edition of that story.
Exciting.
Next on The Fan.
Wesley Financial Group is not
Kansas losing to Central Florida.
What?
Yeah.
What's the score?
I don't know. But someone said Ken Palm said this would be like their worst loss in like 6 years.
They are losing.
Yeah.
They're down 3 with 15 seconds left.
Oh, boy. What the hell, Jayhawks?
That's all good. It's only January.
What is Kansas ranked?
Number 1 now.
Oh.
Purdue just lost.
Not for long.
Purdue lost, and then Houston lost. How about that?
Yeah. Central Florida.
Now that's some real sports talk.
Central Florida to the free throw line.
Are you kidding me?
Fire Bill Self.
Didn't he get a lifetime contract?
Yeah.
Now there's some stability.
He did, and rightly so. We love him. I mean, we love him.
That is true.
Love.
There is legend.
Absolute legend.
I also saw this, that the Miami Heat waited until Eric Spoelstra finished his divorce proceedings to give him the $120 million contract extension.
Is he getting divorced?
Yeah, he just finished it.
Huh.
You know what makes you feel better
It's
after?
kind of a cheap shot.
You know what makes you feel better after divorce? $120 million contract.
That's all yours.
It's that Russell Wilson thing,
So
man.
you think that Riley did that on purpose?
I would certainly hope so. If you're Spoelstra and you were smart, you wouldn't sign that thing. That's what like Russ did before he got his big contract. Ditched his wife.
That's two different things. Like if Spoelstra isn't going to sign it, knowing he's getting a divorce.
Yeah.
That I get. Yeah. But you think Riley was like, yeah, I'll hold this back for you, bro.
100%.
Go ahead and close that thing out with that bitch.
Guaranteed that.
Then I'll give you $120 million.
Guaranteed that came up in those discussions.
That's a solid.
Yes.
If Pat Riley is anything like Adrian Brody, who plays him in that HBO series Showtime, the story of the winning Lakers, abso-freaking-lutely.
You're telling me the amount of scush that Pat Riley's been around over the years and what he's seen, that he wasn't the one being like, hey, Eric, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of you. But you know what? You get through this one, got a little something extra for you on the back end. Here's $120 state tax free. Let's go. Boop. Write that check. Down goes Kansas, by the way.
They lost?
They lost.
Damn it. To Central Florida?
It's their first Big 12 win in the history of the program.
Well, they just started.
Yeah.
Congrats to the 4 people that bet the money line on Central Florida.
Wait till you face my whiteout. Wait till you face my Cougs. You're not ready for what we're bringing.
Apparently not.
Kansas is overrated. Everyone thought that Big 12 thing was going to be a big jump up. Whatever. Not for BYU and Central Florida.
Who's Central Florida's coach?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Scott Frost?
Scott Frost is running their basketball program? I have no idea.
Ooh,
isn't that where Taco Fall played? Wasn't he a Central Florida Knight? Isn't that a Taco Fall? Maybe? I don't know why.
No.
I think I just remember that in the tournament.
Yeah, Central Florida. Look at you.
And for whatever reason, the announcer has a shoe. I don't know why, but he's holding a shoe while celebrating.
Well, I think
someone threw a shoe.
He just is like, this is how mad it is in here.
We're just tossing sneakers.
We got shoes. What was I going to tell you?
I don't know.
Oh,
but I've never understood the throwing. Like, I'm at a hockey game and there's a hat trick. I'm not throwing my hat on the ice. I spent $40 on that hat. That's like a $180 sneaker. I'm not throwing my sneaker on the court. I'm not getting that thing back. And now I got one damn shoe and I got to walk home. I don't think so. I'll throw someone else's hat, someone else's sneaker.
Spoelstra's wife has commented, because you can't.
Yeah.
You got to put it on your story. So, who said that she fumbled the bag?
Oh, I saw it on my Twitter feed.
Somebody said she fumbled the bag.
Yes.
Because Spoelstra gets 8 years, $120 million after they finalize their divorce.
Yeah.
Okay. She says, she goes on her Insta and she quotes, way to fumble the bag. And then she says, LOL, I'm going to address this comment, not as it pertains to my personal life choices, but as it relates to a general thought process that I believe a lot of people have, and that a lot of people have harassed me over the years. According to crass, ignorant, uninformed society at large, women can't win. Women can't be genuinely in love with someone successful. No, they're pretending, and they're in it for the money. And if a woman chooses to not be with a successful partner. Apparently, she's an idiot. And no, I won't ignore it. Then she says, what is she doing here? Ignoring it, harassment. For years, messed with my emotional health, and people need to have a better understanding of how their words can affect other people, not just me, but people in general. Be nicer. That's from Nikki Spolstra.
Can we all grow up for just a quick second? Look, let me just say this. I have nothing against Nikki.
Is she from here?
No, she's a Miami Heat dancer.
Oh, she was?
Yes. So can we just...
Wait, was I supposed to know that? He's from here, right?
He's from here. Yeah.
No, I'm just laughing because of the situation. It's like, it's a dancer and a coach.
That's all I'm saying, okay? I get it. Spolster's not a bad-looking guy. He's not. I'm sure he's a nice dude. But just stop for what? Can we just be honest? It makes a difference. You're a Miami Heat dancer. You just happen to fall in love with the head coach. That had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. It's just like people that marry athletes, and then, but it's vice versa. You think Eric Spoelstra was interested in Nikki because of her wonderful personality? I'm sure she's nice and it helped, but I'm willing to guess that Spoelstra's first thing was she's got a great ass when she dances, and I'm sure she was like, "Who's this?" Oh, he's the head coach. It's like when an NBA player starts dating a gal. It's not the only reason they stay together, but I think it helps. But it drives me crazy when women and men both do this. When like some 25-year-old hot who's marrying a 52-year-old guy, he's like, I just fell in love with him.
Yeah.
You didn't fall in love with any of the other 52-year-old guys. Why'd you fall in love with this one? Oh, he's the head coach. Oh, he's worth $100 million. It makes sense. Just be honest. No one faults you. We know why you like him, and we know why he likes you. And then there's other things that get involved, and I'm sure that love grows, and there's an appreciation and all that. But, we know how that starts.
Nikki Spolstra is denying, I don't know if she's keeping her maiden name or her good name and going back to her maiden, but she's denying that every relationship, especially between men and women, is transactional. She's just trying to deny that altogether. Like,
hey, look, I think she's hot.
She is. She's a Miami Heat dancer.
I would like to report that she's hot. And I'd also like to report that Eric Spoelstra and I have something in common in that we both tried to tag a Miami Heat dancer.
That a baby.
He was successful.
He was successful.
And
by the way, their kids are adorable.
Well, yeah,
they really are.
Spoelstra's not a bad-looking guy.
Well, they've got they're just cute kids. I don't know. Every once in a while I look up sports people and their families, and you see their little rat fart kids, and you're like, I just look like anybody else's rat fart kids.
Yeah.
Spolstra's kids, they're adorable.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the kids.
But lots of Miami Heat dancers married men that are 20 years older than they are, and
Well, I gave one of them the opportunity to marry a young man.
Didn't work.
Salina, Kansas.
Didn't work out.
She did not.
You know what would have helped with that?
She didn't bite.
You know what would have helped with that?
Money.
$100 million.
Money.
20 years and
What was the giveaway? That I was down on the court for a halftime game? That I didn't have money? Does that say I don't have money? I'm trying to win a big Gatorade jug by spinning on the wiffle ball bat during halftime. No, this is my guy right here.
How you doing?
So that story is we were at the Miami Heat game we went to Miami for spring break.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just three of us. We just were partying and stuff.
Yeah.
And we went to the Heat game, and they called. We signed up for the thing. They caught us right when we walked in the doors. Like, hey, how would you guys do? Would you guys like to do some halftime stuff? Or I think it was actually during the timeout because I almost fell into the bench. But they said, yeah, and we're like, yeah. And so they called us and they said, come on, let's go. And so while you're waiting to go on the court to that deal where you spin on the wiffle ball bat 20 times or whatever it is, and then you got to go make a layup.
Sure.
And whoever makes the layup first gets the Gatorade jug.
Yeah.
I did not win.
Did you go down? Did you go down?
I did. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can't believe anybody wouldn't go down after doing that.
It's a lot of spinning.
My friend Corey won, but while you're waiting to get on the court, they sit you right down there with the Miami Heat dancers.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. I shot my shot.
Good for you.
Because I was half in the bag.
I am proud of you.
I was probably, I don't know what year that was. I was probably 19.
Why not? Shocker that didn't work.
I know.
Once.
I'm still surprised by it. But, Maybe I chose the wrong one.
When I was with the Broncos.
Just kidding. I tried them all.
We were playing a preseason game against the Cardinals, and we were waiting to go out on the field. So it's a bunch of just dip asses like me that weren't going to make the team. And the tunnel that you walk out of was lined with the Cardinals cheerleaders. And normally NFL cheerleaders are hot, but they, there's a variety there, and they're a little bit older. Arizona Cardinals just hired strippers. They were all just every one of them. I was like, what? They were working at Jaguars in their off time. And I'll tell you what, the amount of shooting your shot, if that's the nice way you want to say it, between the slappy, like preseason Denver Broncos and those wonderful dancers, that tunnel got real creepy, real fast. There's a lot of that. I think they were waiting for the better players. I think they were waiting for Shannon Sharp to come along a little bit later
with his telephone pole.
Yeah. He had the ability to walk into a strip club, make a lap, pick 3 or 4 out, and then leave. But I'm sure it was all because he was a wonderful human being.
I saw Michael Irvin do that.
Yeah. So it's a nice move when you can see it in person. You're like, wow, that works? Yeah. You. Yeah, you're coming with me. Oh, great.
We were in Vegas.
It's all personality.
I just feel like, and I've always had the thought, I wonder how many of those women even knew who he was.
They knew he was important.
Exactly. I don't think they knew who he was. I just think they knew the game. They know the game.
Yeah. That's a big night for them.
It's like, oh, all right. He has some diamonds on.
My 100 in singles is not going to lure them to stay.
Looks important. Let's see what comes of this.
Let's see where this goes.
That guy wearing lots of diamonds, that's my year right there.
My buddy's wife has a photo of her hanging out with Michael Irvin wearing the Super Bowl ring. She claims that nothing occurred. I have my doubts. She's sitting on Michael's lap wearing his Super Bowl ring.
Oh, she banged him.
Thank you.
Just admit it.
Yeah. She claims that they just hung out and then she went home. I'm like, really? Really?
Where?
That was in Vegas too. Yeah. She was working in Vegas and not that kind of work. She was doing carpet in
so was I.
She was working as a designer that was helping design interior. Everything in a casino is designed a certain way. Mm-hmm. She was working for one of those out of college, and she ended up partying with Michael Irvin. All I know is there's a photo of my friend's wife sitting on the lap of an intoxicated Michael Irvin wearing his Super Bowl ring, and after all these years, she still won't come clean about it. Who are we fooling? Really? You were 22 in Vegas on Michael Irvin's lap and nothing happened? Sure looked like something was about to happen in that photo.
All right, we got to run on with the show here. What did I tease?
I don't know. We got derailed.
Can't remember. Oh, I know. We've got UFO news.
Oh, yeah, bored, rich UFO people.
Yeah. I think that a lot of times things in the world happen with just rich people getting together and forming a consortium. The rich people there's a whole nother world, the secret society.
That's awesome.
The rich people just kind of control things in their little meetings.
I want to be a part of that.
Well, here's one of them. They had a meeting. And out of it came UFO news. It is 6:21 on the Fan.
The Fan is
This comes to us from a whistleblower. He's a UFO whistleblower.
Remember when, like, a couple months ago when UFOs were like all the rage, and now we're like, whatever. Like old news.
Well, this guy says it's not old news. He is saying that it is only a matter of time before all the secrets spill out because whistleblowers are blowing their whistles.
They've been blowing them for like 2 years.
They're Jim Harbaugh whistles.
Yeah, the one country say that they produced the little alien coffin.
That was Mexico.
we didn't
believe that.
We didn't take it seriously. We're like, whatever.
Well, this is a UFO whistleblower who used to work in the government. And he is a former intelligence officer. His name is David Grush. And I think he is the guy last summer who was testifying before Congress about this. I think he's the same guy.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. He looks different in this photo. But apparently he goes to a secret meeting at some rich guy's condo in New York City.
You have no idea how much I want to sit in on one of these like rich guy, like high table sort of things.
I think these are way more common than people know, and I think a lot of S gets done at these meetings.
I don't even care if I get to go to the cool one involving bird masks and Eyes Wide Shut. I just want to be at some secret meeting like Squid Games. You know the rich people are just doing
just like the handling of the Epstein stuff.
Yeah,
that was one of these.
Absolutely, and
everybody
they're like,
just come to my apartment,
and
calm down. We're gonna serve some drinks, and we're gonna get to. We're gonna make this. We're gonna make it right. You will have nothing to worry about after this secret meeting.
We're deciding who lives and who dies.
So this guy
it's like real quick. The best scene in that Succession was a great show. The scene that struck me the most that I can't get over is when they were picking the next president. The
three kids are deciding.
Yes.
In the boardroom.
Yes. No, not the three kids. When they get together, because Succession is basically it's a play on Rupert Murdoch's life. No, when they're getting together and deciding who's going to be the next president of the United States, like all the high level conservative people in the media get together at like a big like gathering, and they decide together who's going to be the presidential nominee.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes down.
Yeah, of course.
That's crazy.
Well, it was a couple years ago, wasn't it, that...
It's Falwell.
Well, it was the Democratic... the Democratic Party decided that it was Hillary and not Bernie.
Yeah.
And
they were like, we don't care what the people think, you're done.
They made the change.
And it was the same thing, like Jerry Falwell got together with all the conservative religious people.
Out so well.
No, and they decided that Trump would get the endorsement. And that's how people are like, how did Trump get the evangelical vote? Jerry Falwell decided that it was going to be Trump.
And again, it happens in things like this.
Yes.
They go to some high-rise apartment in New York City and they talk it out over drinks. That's what rich people do. That's how they rule.
It's amazing.
Well, this one was a special secret presentation reported to have been attended by officials from the CIA, FBI, and Wall Street bigwigs in New York City. And there are photos of it that leaked out of this guy up there. And it just looks like he's just speaking at some guy's big screen TV. And everybody's just sitting around in his living room. And or her living room.
Could be. Don't be sexist. When
according to
world leaders,
Mail Online. Well, it's not world leaders. It's all these people are all from the U.S. But they're, this guy. He's got some cred. Used to be an intelligence officer. 60 people were at the talk in a New York penthouse, hosted by cryptocurrency advisor John D. Agostino and high-profile lawyer John J. Altarelli. Not that.
High table type names. John Wick was involved.
Photos were banned, but an anonymous leaker has shared images of Mr. Grush speaking and divulging some of his claims, including the TARDIS, which they said could manipulate both space and time. And
wait, isn't the TARDIS from Doctor Who? Isn't the TARDIS?
Well, he is saying that the U.S. is hiding a UFO the size of a football field.
Oh.
It's 39. Well, I don't know if it's the size of a football field, but they're saying it's 12 meters, which is 39 feet. It's a TARDIS-like alien craft.
Oh, I thought, when I think of TARDIS, I think of that was the phone booth in Doctor Who. They time traveled.
Wait, 39 feet. That wouldn't be right. I don't know. They said it's a TARDIS-like alien craft that's the size of a football field inside.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I don't know. It's a big ass TARDIS.
Big ass TARDIS. They say it can manipulate both. He says it can manipulate both space and time, and could harness enough energy to power 70,000 homes a year. However, no one would provide
not that many homes.
Any further information as to how this would be possible. They said it was a small saloon-style talk, and David did it for free. He even went as far as to fly into New York City just for that. He arrived only a few hours beforehand, and he left first thing the next day, just to speak to the Richie Riches.
So the Richies know that there's a big alien craft, but they don't get to party on the alien craft or anything. And do we know who has the alien craft?
The U.S. government.
The U.S. government.
Yeah, I said the idea was to get a group of both skeptics and believers from all these different walks of life for a talk regarding David and the things he has said. Most of the people who left had left as believers.
Boy, to be rich.
And this is how you influence.
And not just rich, but that's different than just being rich. You got $1 billion, whatever. You think Mark Cuban's getting invited to this? I don't think so.
I think he talks too much.
Yeah. That's true.
You got to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Well, you
got to be a real TARDIS.
You see those big billionaires with massive social followings. That is not like a guy like Rupert Murdoch. It's those people and not the Mark Cubans of the world that are behind these closed doors meetings.
Well, I think it's I don't know. The idea. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I just think to keep stuff under wraps is just too hard. There's too many stupid people out there to spill the beans. But that's kind of why I'm starting to come around to this alien stuff, is that it feels like everyone is just spilling the beans. And I'm starting to believe that we do. We just have alien craft, and we've had it for a long time. And it's it's out there, but collectively we're so dumb that we're more concerned about Kim Kardashian's ass than we are about the idea of we have an alien craft that can bend space and time.
Hey, you lay off that ass.
Lay on that ass.
It's quality.
So speaking on the Joe Rogan Experience in November.
Oh God! Immediately I give it no credibility.
Well, this is David Grush. He said the government had retrieved at least 10 alien bodies from UFO crashes. In New York, he is also said to have claimed a U.S. rival is poised to reveal their own evidence of non-human intelligence to beat America to the punch, contradicting claims the government is covering up what it knows.
Interesting.
So would that be the Chinese, maybe?
Yeah, well, I mean, Mexico tried. You mentioned that. I don't know, the Russians.
They're a buddy. They're not a rival.
Yeah, so I guess if you're going to rival, China would probably be the big
Russia.
one.
But
those damn Canadians are rival to the north.
You have any faith in Russia? I don't. They don't know S.
It is weird that anything. I mean, the Chinese government obviously knows what they're doing, but anything that comes out of China, I do not believe. I think I'd rather believe something coming out of Russia, and that's saying something because I don't believe anything comes out of Russia. Remember, during COVID, China was yeah, we have 4 COVID cases, and that's it. Certainly didn't come from us. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's you disagree. In Russia, you get shoved down an elevator shaft. In China, you just disappear for re-education. So I don't know. If China came out tomorrow and was here's our alien craft and here's our alien bodies. Or is it going to be like that one where it looked like that the bear standing up? It would look like a person in a bear suit. You don't know what to believe. Oh.
This guy's saying crypto guy hosting the meeting. That's a red flag for him. And I agree with that. That's right.
Yeah.
The attorney gives it the credibility, but the crypto guy, this is a little out there.
It is so hard to know what the Epstein stuff. Do you believe the report was that Stephen Hawking was having little stripper gals solve high equations on their tippy toes? That's the most absurd thing ever. And you're is that true? I don't know. The more something is out there, the more you're I want to believe it, but I don't know. And I think that's where aliens fall. If you ask me right now, are any of these alien things true? I'd probably say yes. But how the hell are you going to convince anyone that this is true outside of the mothership coming to just showing up over a city? And by the way, the city counts. If it shows up over Lawrence, Kansas, no one believes it. They're like, whatever. It's got to be like over New York or Los Angeles for anyone to believe it whatsoever. And even then, there's going to be some dude out there with a shotgun taking shots at it, be like, it's a bunch of liberal BS used to distract me. It's just, no one believes anything. We have more information than ever at our fingertips, and I swear to God, it's made us dumber. It's made us dumber.
Well, if you're ever privileged enough to get into one of these high New York City penthouse debriefings, you may think differently.
Yeah. This guy says, rumor has it the big announcement coming soon. Fears our feeble minds can't handle it, so they're going to trickle it out. Look, I will say that I'm not here to attack anyone's religion. You believe in what you believe. I was raised in a religious institution. I get it, man. Whatever you're into, whatever helps you get through your day, more power to you. But there is going to be a religious reckoning when the little green dude shows up one day and is like, nanu, nanu, and we're here, and this is like, we helped build the pyramids, or there's life on a lot of different planets, and we're a bunch of blue dudes. Like, it's going to be a weird...
Did you say nanu, nanu?
Yeah.
Mork?
Mork. It's going to be a real weird day with the whole, the earth being 7,000 years old and 7 days in creationism and Hinduism and the rest of this. It's going to be a weird day when someone comes down and is like, hey, this is the key to the universe, and it's not a white dude from the Middle East.
They'll find a way to deny it. They always do.
It's going to be weird. And a lot of people are going to really struggle with it.
Well, they're saying this is his only private, non-government talk that David Grush, or whatever his name is, has made right there in New York City.
Well, someone tape it. I need.
Well, they did. They didn't tape it.
Tape it. It's leaks.
They leaked out the fact that it was happening.
I just need one rogue rich dude to just go out there and just blow the whole lid off everything. Let's go. Give it to us.
All right. Club 1080 continues next. Can AI find romantic matches? Here's Schultz.
This is a Wild Card Week edition of Primetime with Isaac and Sue.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Stanford's. This classic American steakhouse is exactly what you've been craving. Visit them in Clackamas. Janice Borner online at stanfords.com. First on the Fan, a bombshell dropping in college football today. Alabama head coach Nick Saban announcing his retirement after 17 seasons with the program. That includes 6 national championships in just a 12-year span. Action Network's Brett McMurphy is reporting that Oregon coach Dan Lanning is expected to be their top choice to replace Saban. More shocking news, this time out of the NFL, as Seattle Seahawks owner Jody Allen announced that the team has decided to remove head coach Pete Carroll and transition him into an advisory role. After being hired in 2010, the 72-year-old Carroll finishes up his tenure as the winningest coach in Seahawks history, along with 10 playoff appearances and 1 Super Bowl win. Elsewhere in the NFL, the Bears decided to keep head coach Matt Eberflus, but are firing offensive coordinator Luke Getsky after going 7-10 this season. And some good news for the Cleveland Browns this weekend. Receiver Amari Cooper will be playing in their wildcard matchup with the Texans on Saturday after dealing with a heel injury. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs, the big game. Watch and wager on all the action at Spirit Mountain Casino. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
The home of Primetime with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared.
there's a big announcement coming soon, but our feeble minds can't handle it.
Yes.
Deal is in, and he says, they could say we have aliens, and I'd be like, what's the latest on Dan Lanning? Hello?
Run that by me one more time?
They could say we have aliens, and I'd be like, what's the latest on Dan Lanning?
Yes.
There we
pay.
There we go.
You just can't get people to focus on anything that doesn't. Because the alien thing would certainly affect them, but I don't know. We have such a narrow view of what impacts our day to day, or what we want to impact our day to day, and that's all that matters to people. I truly do. I tend to agree with that. An alien could land tomorrow and have proof. You could have proof for the first time, extraterrestrial life, and it would be on the front page of most newspapers, but not in Alabama. They would be more concerned about Nick Saban, and the alien thing would last a week until Ryan Reynolds would cheat on Blake Lively. Something would occur, and then we'd be big. Yeah, and we'd be like,
This guy says
back.
The aliens are going to be so frustrated when people are live reacting that it's faked. Yeah, that's so true. They could come down and have a press conference.
Yes.
The little blue guys.
Yes.
And the questions would be like, how do we know you're real? Well, because I'm sitting right here. But really,
exactly.
Prove it.
Well, now with
we don't believe anything.
No, because you'd be like, well, that's fake. That's a Hollywood conspiracy. We used to have idiots that believe that the moon landing's fake. Aaron Rodgers would do an emergency press conference immediately and say that this whole thing is crap. And he did ayahuasca, and he learned that that's not true.
He would say ESPN's behind this.
Yeah.
This is a great text. I don't know if anybody else will think it's a great text, but I find it delightful. The little blue aliens would say, I'm blue, dabba-dee, dabba-die.
I don't know if anyone else, but I'm with you.
I'm in love with that.
That's fantastic. That is
I'm
great.
sorry. To me, that's the text of the day, but that's my weird sense of humor.
Now all I can hear in my head is, I'm blue, dabba. Yeah, it's just stuck. Thank you for that. For the rest of the evening, that will be stuck in my head.
All right.
I've always made the joke that imagine if, again, we were talking about the whole religion thing. If Jesus came back down, how many people would believe it? 20%? 30?
Whoever already is like a Christian or invested belief in that, right? Whoever's already religious, that's probably it. Maybe a few more.
Imagine that press conference on CNN or Fox News.
Jesus is on there?
Yeah. Comes rolling in. Of course, speaking perfect English, of course.
I mean, it could go like the Family Guy episode where Jesus came back to life. He'd just become a star of late night television, Just start making the tour around the country.
What if he has a southern accent? He's like, hey now. Hey y'all.
What if he's a small Middle Eastern Jew with curly hair?
It's me.
Like, what? That's not mine. It's not what I was led to believe.
Well, maybe we'll get some alien proof soon.
I hope so. I'm tired of this, will they, won't they? It's a Ross Racial thing. Do it. Do it already. Release the aliens.
That's why I am skeptical of all of it, because I think a lot of times guys like this Gersh guy or whatever his name is, I just think these are guys that are really full of themselves.
Sure.
And they just can't, they love, they're intoxicated by the idea that they're the one saying these things, and they exaggerate, or they're just insane.
Well, that too.
And so I think that's
a wiser man than me once said. That's the thing about crazy people; they don't know they're crazy.
Right. Right. And I feel like that's what it is, because otherwise we would. I mean, come on, we would know.
Yeah. Would we? We're pretty dumb.
No, I think we would.
Waiting for the alien to come down and just hold this press conference. Eliminate the middleman, come to us directly, and stop going to the mid part of the country. Come to the coast.
A little AI talk is up next. Can AI find romantic matches? One company says it can. 646 on the Fan.
Yeah. The home of Dirt and Spray.
I'm Dirt. Philly is in absolute turmoil. Talk about doors falling from the sky. The Eagles are a plane
Any specific part of the country, which news channel would the aliens have to appear on for either side to believe them?
Ooh.
That's a great point. Because if they jump on Fox News first,
right,
half the country's like, yeah, no, don't buy it.
Then MSNBC, the other half's like, screw you.
Yeah.
Local news. Genuinely, I think you'd have to go local. Oh, no. C-SPAN. If that is technically
C-SPAN?
That's technically a news network. I think C-SPAN would be the one.
Nobody watches C-SPAN, do
Exactly. So we're not biased against it, right?
Maybe it should be exclusive on Peacock. Is that neutral enough?
Yeah. Might piss some people off that don't have streaming services. Only cable though.
By the way, if you're wondering where Suk is, he's being awful quiet. He left. He got so mad he left.
Wow. What? I've never.
You pissed him off.
It was my fault.
No, he had to go. He had something going on. So we're wrapping it up here. But yeah, Chiefs Dolphins, I guess, is exclusively Peacock.
Yeah, my dad actually, he's going to use my login for Peacock because he does not subscribe to it himself. And he's just like, how the hell am I going to do this?
Yeah, I'm using someone else's too.
Smart. Hey, if you ever need them, I'll hook you up. Or you could just go,
tweet it out. A guy from the Chiefs did. I think a guy from the Chiefs, one of the players, said he was giving away 90 free Peacock subscriptions.
I mean,
for people who want to watch the game.
They probably gave him some subscriptions to give away, right? I'm just little old Schulte over here.
You are just little old Schulte over there.
Chiefs
what do you know?
Nothing. The Chiefs player is going to get way more following on that one.
They said it was like $1,600 if you had to pay for it all. So to him, that's nothing. I don't know which player it was, but can artificial intelligence find your perfect romantic match just by examining your face? Now, do you think this is possible?
At a surface level, it might work for like 3 or 4 dates, but long term, who knows?
Well, that wouldn't qualify as perfect romantic match.
For some people, it might.
Well, that's true. SciMatch thinks it can. The dating app runs photos of users' faces through its algorithm to determine their personality traits, such as outgoing, neurotic, or conscientious. It then recommends potential mates who have compatible characteristics.
So they have to use your faces? They're just cheating.
Only your faces.
They're cheating and...
That's why I don't buy it.
No, they're just matching people that look like each other. That's all it's doing.
No, I think what they're doing, and it says later in this is from the Wall Street Journal, did an article on this. What they do is they ask for your your celebrity crush or whatever. And then I think what they do is they just go find somebody that kind of looks like that. So throws them on your feed.
If I wanted it said Brittany Snow.
Yeah. Who's Brittany Snow?
Pitch Perfect. She's the red hair from that. Oh my God, she's gorgeous. Yeah, like that or Margot Robbie. They're gonna go find me like a Margot Robbie or Brittany Snow twin.
Well, I don't know about twin.
I'll tell you what, if they look like those girls, they wouldn't want anything to do with me here.
But a match. Yeah. AI, of course, playing an increasingly larger role in our daily lives now. When it comes to online dating, it's already sort of taken over in some aspects. It helps people optimize their profile pictures. It helps them start conversations. In this instance, they're saying certain face shapes mean certain things about someone's personality. I don't know. I'm not sure I knew that. This says once the Sci-Fi Match app scans your face, it spits out a description that you can use in your profile. The algorithm doesn't focus on specific features, but studies the face as a whole. For example, people with heart-shaped faces are considered by face-reading experts, yes, that is a thing, to be creative and have a fiery temperament.
I had no idea.
The app's developers say the algorithm factors in both personality similarities and differences. If you're neurotic, you probably want a partner who's less neurotic than you. Yeah, no S. After you scan, you start scrolling through profiles of other daters and check your compatibility as a percentage. They say a match of 50% or greater is considered good. All right. I mean, I guess, I don't know. That's better than just scrolling through aimlessly, right? I mean, I don't have to do any of the online dating thing. And I got to be honest with you, I'm so happy that I never had to deal with this. But
Tom met my wife.
Yeah, I have friends that are single and stuff or divorced or whatever. And They have to navigate that, and they all are just like, it sucks.
I'm so happy to be with my wife, and as a dude, you're just not really successful in
So
any of those.
It's just a lot. You're weeding through a lot of stuff, and it's probably a big waste of time because you go on all these dates and you're like, you suck, I hate you, get out of here, and that's a waste of time. Whereas it's like the speed, dude. I would be totally into speed dating if I were in the dating pool. 100%. 7 minutes, I can tell whether we want to go out or not. Let's go. Rather than having to filter through all your stupid fake photos and all your bullshit you put on your, at least this is like giving you some sort of like lead.
Yeah, I used to think that was kind of cheesy, but the way you just described it, it sounds a lot better than what we got in 2024.
Speed dating would be great.
Yes.
And you try 20 different women on for size in 7 minutes each. He's waiting for you to get that.
It's like, oh yeah, I guess they can try the men on too.
All right, coming up next, it is Hot Corner with Harris and Lynch. I see him out there. Not Lynch. Harris and what's the other guy's name?
Joe Fisher.
Joe.
And then he got Will in for me tomorrow, so I'll see you on Monday.
Oh, what? Where are you going, you little bitch?
I got to go to the morning. Little staff switcheroo because of some stuff.
Will Ortner tomorrow. All right. We are back tomorrow, 3 to 7 on the Fan Tonight.
Red ships of Spain. Red ships of Spain.